Hello and welcome to Jurassic Outpost. My name is Alex. I'm here in London today, joined with two very special guests, fresh but obviously not quite fresh, from the production of Jurassic World Rebirth, production designer James Clyne and lead graphic designer Matthew Clark. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for being here, guys. This is kind of a unique opportunity for us because the last few films have had a very strong presence here in the UK. And Rebirth was no exception. All the studio work was done here, the production office was done here, was here, and I guess your art department was largely based here as well.
Yeah, we were home based here, yeah.
So it's a really unique opportunity for us to sit down and just shoot the shit about the film, about your time on it, your experience, but also about you guys and your careers, because you both got really, really interesting and kind of diverse careers. You've been through a few different eras almost, not to, I think it's just that. I'm so sorry. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I think Jurassic is a really unique franchise where the fans almost treat the crew at that same sort of level of prestige as the cast. Like, we grew up on the making of documentaries and stuff like that. We ran into Dennis Murin in LA 6 years ago, and he couldn't believe we recognized who he was. He was like, I didn't think anyone. And now these days he's in every other documentary.
Right.
He's a huge presence, a huge influential figure at ILM, the grandfather of ILM, if you will.
Yeah. I know Dennis fairly well.
Yeah, let's get into that. So you had 10 years at ILM? Or
10 years, yeah. It felt like about 3 seconds, but yeah, it was about 10 years. 2013, I think I was one of the last hires before the Disney acquisition. I had no idea
interesting
how it was all unfolding. I just thought I was going up to work for ILM.
ILM is such an interesting VFX house because they kind of were the pioneers in so many different ways, especially with Jurassic. But they obviously evolved as a bit of a spin-off from the production of Star Wars and stuff like that. But George Lucas has always been very kind in, making films for his friends. Jurassic is a Universal movie, other films that from different studios and stuff like that. But prior to that, you were doing more illustration, concept art, that sort of work?
Yeah. So I was embedded in the art department, concept art, illustration work, and that was all in LA. A lot of film work in LA, working from like Avatar and a couple Star Treks. Worked on Lincoln, got a little bit of history in. But so started there, and I've always been just a huge, obviously, fan of ILM. And being a fan of film, how can you not be a fan of Industrial Light and Magic? I think that's where I got some of my education of how movies were made, was just seeing those kind of old documentaries on ILM, Star Wars and Jurassic. So I just got the opportunity and happened to fall literally right into the lap of the early production and development of what was going to become Force Awakens.
And you've done so many Star Wars films now, I think almost...
I was trying to count them. There's a lot. I mean, there's several that were development as well. So I worked with various directors that were trying to get their projects up and running. So I worked intimately with them in developing a look. But yeah, as a art director, visual effects art director, with Lucasfilm at ILM.
I'm curious kind of what that entails as a role, because I feel like it's the sort of thing that probably didn't exist 20 years ago. Like maybe at the dawn of sort of visual effects, artists were kind of left to their own to their devices, whereas now to keep that kind of cohesive look throughout the film, it's important to have figures like yourself in place to kind of guide how the visual effects are going to look.
Very much so. And the only equal I can think of, not that I'm equating myself to this person, but Joe Johnston from the original trilogy. He was part of ILM, obviously, but he was one of the first hires by George. And then he shepherded the whole visual landscape through to the end. So he would be pre-production, production, and post-production. And I think ILM and Lucasfilm valued somebody that can do that, and therefore I was on a movie for, Force Awakens for like 2.5 years, from beginning to end, and loved every minute of it. But I think it's sometimes when you work on a film, you have these kind of bifurcated productions, and when the photography ends, then post comes in and some things change visually speaking, and you don't get some cohesion with it. So
have you ever heard of that at all? what are your films as wrapped and you've come to see a cut months down the line? Is there anything that's ever really surprised you? Like, oh, that's not the way we was.
Oh yeah, I mean the edit is so different than what you imagine the movie, because you're not seeing it chronologically when you're building the movie. You're not seeing it chronologically when you're shooting the movie. So to see it all kind of come together that way, with sound production and score and all that, it's almost like you're seeing a whole new film.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. And Matt, jumping into your career, you're obviously British. So you started off with quite a bit of TV here in Britain.
Yeah.
The last sort of 5-6 years, some really, really, interesting stuff. Doctor Who, Black Mirror, where I guess no day is probably going to be anything like the day before. It's almost Monster of the Week is a very interesting format for someone to work on.
I mean, Doctor Who was great. I kind of had a friend working on it. She left. I knew there was a vacancy. I phoned up and asked for it, managed to wangle in. And I hadn't really done graphics before at that point. I was still quite new to it. I've been playing around with it in Photoshop, but not as a professional designer. So I had to learn everything pretty much on the show on Doctor Who. But what was great about that show was that's where you learn how to do things. Because not only was it Monster of the Week, it was time period of the week. And we would have to frequently, most of the first series, which was series 9, we would do it in blocks, 2 episodes, and the next block would use whatever was left over from the first one, rearranged upside down, turned inside out, and learning how, on no money, to turn around what we were doing. I think on Jurassic I had a budget of about £400,000. Doctor Who, I think it was 2,000 or 3,000 an episode. So we had to learn for essentially spare change how to create a complete aesthetic.
A lot with a little.
Yeah, and I had a really great designer on that who's sadly passed away. He was a very old school designer, but interested in new technology. So I learned about kind of how graphics could move into prop making with laser cutting, the 3D ink printing directly to kind of large sheet materials. You can backlight to make control panels or murals. So we were kind of constantly kind of encouraged to think of, spend money on 2 or 3 things this episode that really are statement pieces that kind of show how the show works. So across 2 years of that, I kind of really had about 10 years worth of experience in that one job. Like it was such a worthwhile job to do. And
I feel like the best jobs, especially from a creative perspective, the jobs you learn on, where you leave much more knowledgeable than when you came in.
Yeah, and you go in there thinking kind of graphic. Before that, I'd done a police procedural TV show, which in our line of work is kind of the most basic level kind of graphics you can do, paperwork, signs on cars, that sort of thing. And then Doctor Who, first day was a room full of backlit control panels and then acetate printed maps on a flying space hearse with, abstract kind of control. So just learning, and then the sort of the machine branding on the side. So getting that kind of idea of how to cohesively do an entire world and do it cheaply. And it kind of allows you, and obviously Doctor Who being more fantasy than not, it allows you to kind of throw ideas at the wall, and if they kind of feel right emotionally or in terms of tone rather than logic, they tend to go for that. So it was a great way of kind of just learning to think on your feet and work out how to do things.
It's interesting that you've both done quite a bit of like techie stuff across the films you've been on, but then also the other side of the spectrum, some period stuff, Lincoln and obviously Doctor Who, time travel. You're going to go back in time.
Yeah.
Where do you get material from to, where do you go to research? How do you start off the creative process?
I mean, you as a filmmaker or people that work in the film industry, you kind of have to be a jack of all trades. We all have like our specific talents and our strengths, but you have to be able to be kind of a Swiss Army knife and go in, and if you're working on a Civil War film, you do some research. I probably didn't pay enough attention in school about it, but that became the education, is being able to kind of go back into it and start reading books, look at documentaries about it. And kind of the first thing I do specifically is I try to open up books. I have a quite large library at home, which I try to bring some to London, but we'll buy books and acquire books if we have to. But books are there's something tangible about it. There's something, I don't know. There's a surprise about it. Whereas when you're doing a Pinterest or just a Google image search, it's kind of feeding you a little bit of the same thing.
Plus, a book is more curated, right? So you're kind of getting a better selection of.
That's right. Yeah, there's somebody that spent the time and effort and really putting a story together. So books are a big one, but obviously going online. Sometimes we'll actually have a researcher in the art department. That's their job, is to
take certain scenes and find interesting looks and locations, but it could also be color palettes and patterns and graphics, and it depends what the film is. But yeah, research, as little time as we have for it, I think it's quite important to dive in.
You can't make something out of nothing. You've got to have a starting point to.
I try, and I always fail at it. It's like you've got to be inspired by the outer world. You have to be inspired by history and the present day.
Do you find you're able to switch off, or just you go on vacation with your family and you're eyeing up a spire in the distance, or the way a panel is on the wall, the graphics, vehicles passing around?
There's no switching it off, though.
Is that I was in Italy once with my wife, and we'd just gone somewhere, walked out, and I said to her, I have to go back. There was a hand dryer in the toilet that had a really great label on it, and I just need I still have that picture because it's great reference.
You never know when that's going to come in useful.
Yeah.
10 years down the line on the side of a.
And in fact, that ended up being the reference for like a label on the side of the truck in Italy on Fast 10.
Oh,
because
wow.
it just stayed in my head because I just seen it, and that's clear. You don't switch it off.
I think the key is like just being curious, having curiosity in the world around you, and you can tell that from a good artist that they're really curious about the world. They're not curious about just doing their own thing. They're curious about everything around them and bringing all that into their art.
I always say you can tell a lot about someone by their downloads folder, how full of absolute rubbish it is that they just save because they think, some point I'm going to need this. This is good stuff.
Yeah, I need bigger and bigger hard drives every couple of years.
But talking about digital versus sort of the more real, we tend to find like a lot of art departments will print artwork out still. You'll have a room, a wall room or whatever covered with it. Yeah. And do you find it's just a lot easier to absorb that than just scrolling through digitally on a PowerPoint or something like that?
Very much so. And studios are quite protective of the art, and they're watermarked, but we typically have the show I'm on now, we have a war room, and it's accessible by a few people, but we present work to studio, to producers there, but it's really important to print things out and see things
in real. I very much I love a good coffee table art book, and it's fortunate that it's such a huge medium now in film. Blade Runner at Home for 2049, gorgeous book. Some of the Star Treks, which I'm sure probably have some of your work in.
Yeah. Are we getting a Rebirth one? I don't. Do they do?
I asked. It doesn't sound like
they don't really do it, do they?
I think
they did the first
one. They did two for. One for Jurassic Park and then one for the Jurassic World trilogy.
I spoke to James Mottram and he said if it goes to a trilogy, they'll do an art book.
Right.
We did so much good art on this one, but yeah, it's fine.
Well, let's greenlight that sequel, Universal. We know. I'd love to, because so many artists that worked, I guess, under you are sharing so much of their work now. And it is stunning. Like it's some really, really great pieces. I can't think who it was this week dropped some really, really gorgeous art of the abandoned lab and stuff like that.
Maybe John McCoy or Bob
you know
Cheshire.
what? I think it was. I think you're absolutely right. But it's also interesting to see alternate takes on the film. We get to see things where at some point this was the idea or this was the idea, or you can see how the thinking was shaped over time, which is really, really unique. Do you still get hands-on and do any artwork and do any designs, or do you find you have to be that little bit more removed now? Like,
unfortunately, a little bit of the latter. I mean, I have moleskin sketchbooks, and I sketch in those as much as I can. And if I like something, I'll just take a photo of it and send it to an artist and say, hey, have a play with that. I tend not to have a lot of time to do deep dives and stuff, but I think on Jurassic, towards the end of the production, Gareth wanted some big, and it was a cut scene in the beginning of these big bulldozers that were going through the forest, and I just had a little time, so I did a sketch. I built a model in this modeling program that I use, and I had enough time to actually develop it, and that became an asset to ILM. I just handed it to them. So I think you see it you see a few of them abandoned, or you see the remnants.
It kind of looks like one of those NASA rocket movers, the big caterpillar tracks.
That was definitely the inspiration.
The Blu-ray, they've put they deleted or extended opening on with those moving through.
Oh, cool!
Through the jungle and flattening everything in their wake.
I gotta get the Blu-ray.
It's not out here in the UK. What the fuck, Universal? I think our release date is like beginning of October, but it's out in the US. Right. Deleted scenes, which were really surprising. Quite how much we'll get onto it, but a huge chunk of the Mutadon from the gas station. Like I didn't see that coming. That there's a good 2-minute sequence that didn't make it to the film.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. You can kind of understand when it already has quite a fairly long runtime. It's just over 2 hours, which is a good length for standard film.
Yep.
But so yeah, moving on to Jurassic then. Before we get on to Rebirth, just talking about Jurassic Park and its sequels. I'm curious what kind of effect that's had on both of you and your careers, if it had any effect at all. Maybe it's always been on the, maybe you were more of a Star Wars guy. I'm not sure.
You're definitely a Star Wars guy.
I'm definitely a Star Wars
That's
guy.
fair.
But,
Star Wars is Star Wars.
But Jurassic, it had such an effect on the film culture in general. Most widely known being that it created the first like digital animal, really. And then everybody knows the stories of it was going to be Phil Tippett for a while, and then Dennis Muren proposed, hey, here's a walking T-Rex skeleton, and that kind of obviously changed the industry forever. So that inflection point was really important to not only the movie but the industry at large. So yeah, it was huge. It blew my mind. I remember I read the book. My dad was reading it. This is a couple of years before the movie came out. I was like, "Why? What are you reading?" He usually reads like Clancy and stuff like that. And it had a dinosaur on the front. And I was really into dinosaurs as a kid. And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's about these genetically engineered dinosaurs." And they open a park. I was like, "Well, I want to read that." And he's like, "All right, here, I'll finish it, and you read it." And it just blew my mind. Like Michael Crichton, obviously he's done Andromeda Strain and all these other stories that had a big impact on films. But yes, I am more of a Star Wars guy. But Jurassic Park is huge. It's
I can't
massive.
imagine reading the book before the film existed. Like,
I'm
how
that
would you
old.
visualize
I'm
it?
that old, Matthew.
I don't mean that way, but like just because when I read the book about a year after the film came out, and you can't not visualize it through that. And even though Crichton does write some visual descriptions, and they're very kind of like Land Before Time, steampunky sort of thing.
Right.
I can't, because Jurassic was such a huge thing visually. Like, the concept of reading the book without having that material to work with mentally.
They're very interesting counterparts because you read the book and there are literal lines pulled from it, but yet they feel so very different and they're very tonally different. The book's got a lot more darkness in it, which I think carried over to Rebirth.
The only thing I remember, it's a good thing to bring up because the only thing I remember about reading the book and then seeing the movie was the book felt like a horror movie. I mean, what's his face gets killed in the end. He gets eaten by a little.
Hammond. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, literally a baby gets its face chewed off
Yep.
in the opening. Like it's pretty
Yeah,
hardcore. Like
people want
Stephen
that back.
King.
People really want to see that.
But I do think I put this mostly down to Spielberg. I think that softer touch kind of, you leave the film. Somebody told me this a while ago. I said, "Oh, what is the statement Jurassic Park is making?" And it doesn't make a statement; it asks a question, because I feel like you come out like, it could have worked. It was very close to this technology. If we had it could work. Maybe.
Let's hope so. I want to see a T-Rex walking down.
But do you want to see like a feathered T-Rex, or do you want to see the Jurassic T-Rex?
Oh, I want to see the Jurassic.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We're conditioned to that vision of dinosaurs. Now, the Jurassic set the standard, which will have to, because in the past with the first 3 films, Stan Winston Studios did the designs for the dinosaurs. It sat very apart from, I think, the art department to a degree. And I believe Dominion was the first film where they handed that back to the art department and did the dinosaur. And I feel like Rebirth perhaps was a bit of a handshake between everybody.
Yeah, I mean the way Gareth Edwards approaches it, he just wants to bring everybody in. And again, we were moving so fast with 12 weeks prep. He just brought in, obviously, visual effects, ILM having their hand in it so heavily in the past, but the design of the dinosaurs specifically. But he brought in myself to do some really quick sketches. He brought in some outside concept artists. He's not specific on, I need that guy. But if he sees somebody and he sees the work, he's just like, bring them in.
Yeah.
And he really kind of is, he's kind of a messy chef in the kitchen. He just wants to throw things together and, let's just combine that with that and see if that works and try that out. early days, yeah, we were scouting like Malta and Thailand. We'd just do meetings at the end of the day, and we'd all just kind of sketch and look at the artwork and take the head off of this and put the tail on that. And it eventually would evolve, and then we'd try to bring some science back into it. But
I suppose in a film where these creatures are supposed to be almost Frankenstein's monsters, it's a good approach to kind of
yeah,
hook
for
them
the
up in that way.
T-Rex specifically and the Mutadons, it was like, well, how mutated are these creatures? For the D-Rex, I think Gareth had a pretty good idea from the get-go. Again, he was like, take one part xenomorph, one part Rancor monster from Return of the Jedi, and one part T-Rex, and just shove it all together.
Didn't really change that much, did it? I remember seeing the
It
print-offs,
didn't.
yeah.
No, that one kind of stuck pretty early on. The Mutadons went through many mutations.
We've heard, and we saw recently some concept art of them being much bigger and sometimes a bit more raptor-esque, and then sometimes a bit more just funky, 4 eyes and crazy stuff like that. And obviously we landed on something a lot. For the longest time from the trailers, we never saw them in flight, so I was sort of convinced they were going to be like flightless birds of some sort. But it's interesting that they were a lot harder to land on than the D-Rex.
Yeah, I think some of that was directly tied in with, excuse me, the story itself. And then how much does it fill the frame, and what's its interaction with the actors and the sets themselves. So we had that petrol station at the end. How does, it's quite large, and Gareth wanted to get inside the petrol station. Well, how does it get inside when you have just 2 doors? And there were these like very like weird conversations we'd have to have.
The funny the things you have to think about, because it's going to crop up 5 months from now.
Yeah, and it'll have a snowball effect of like, well, now we have to change the size of the Mutadon. So a lot of it just came down to what looks good in the frame and how Gareth wanted to shoot it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So on the subject of Gareth, I'm curious about how you guys came on to the film, how that kind of works, because it evolved very quickly. It's been a very different production for a Jurassic film. For the last trilogy, they were very much staples, your typical Hollywood production, whereas these, I feel like it was a lot closer perhaps to an independent film in the way it kind of had to operate.
Yeah, I've done a few of them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were tied in with a release date, which was July 2nd, or it was the July 4th weekend, which is a huge weekend in America. It's a long weekend, and
really threw the gauntlet down this year against Superman and Fantastic Four. It was no fear at all. Like, we're just going to do it.
We were still in prep, and I on Twitter at lunchtime, we were still in prep, and then someone tweeted, "In 1 year today, Jurassic World will come out." And we just like, oh, okay, great.
So backing into that release date, Gareth was hired after another director was developing it, but they didn't want to push the schedule. They wanted that slot. So Gareth was hired. I got a call from Gareth maybe a week or 2 after he was hired. He said, "Do you want to do Jurassic Park?" And I couldn't say no. Couldn't say no. Yeah, and then it was just, I was in LA a day or 2 after that. I live in San Francisco, and I was in LA with these offices at Universal, just making calls and calling crew. I mean, the first thing you do is you look for your art directors. And
do you get a chance to read the script before that, or get like a feel for the story, so you know what sort of people you need? Like, I imagine reading this script, you're like, I need a vehicle guy, and I'm going to need tech people and people who know how to environment work.
Very much so. Yeah. And it being based in London, our crew is going to be mostly British crew. We had a big Thailand crew, and we had a crew in Malta, but being based in London, it was obviously we were gonna shoot there and work there. And I had worked with a lot of people in London on the Star Wars films, including my supervising art director, Andrew Bennett. So once Andrew was brought on board, his first job is to start hiring all the art department, and I get into more conceptual phase in his early days.
Do you think the creator kind of helped set up coming into Jurassic, that you'd already shot in Thailand, so that sort of familiarity, and also that same sort of heavy reliance on visual effects?
That probably played a big part of it. Yeah, sure. They want to cast, they cast actors, but they also cast the crew, and they want to, I think Gareth was a perfect fit in that he had shot in Thailand. I had shot in Thailand with Gareth, and he has a really strong post-production background, so it felt like a good fit. And then Gareth, I think he wanted me on board because he knew he didn't have a lot of time, so he had to find somebody that had certain shorthand with. So he can just say, hey, I need this thing and this thing and this thing. And then I would just go and quickly just give him options. The Jeep, for example, or the truck, we called it. I was just going to propose some Land Rovers. And I'd probably have Matthew just do some cool graphics on it. But Gareth was like, why would we do an existing car when we can do whatever we want? I was like, okay, and then I just did a couple quick sketches.
Because you studied as a vehicle design, did some automotive design along?
Yeah, I went to school initially for automotive design. I thought I was going to work for Ford or even, wanted to work for like Porsche or somebody. That was kind of the dream. And then halfway through school, I kind of got bored of it. And one of my instructors was working on a Batman movie, the best Batman movie, Batman.
The nipples.
Batman and Robin.
The
nipples Batman.
Back credit card.
But he snuck me into the art department, and I saw people drawing like Gotham City and like Mr. Freeze's vehicle or the Batmobile, and I was like, I can't believe people actually do this and they get paid. And then it just changed.
If you listen to that interview that John Bell did, where he has the exact same path as you, like went to art centre,
We went
did
to the same
automotive
school.
design, then someone said, they're looking for artists to work in movies. Like you can, and it's such a different thing to what we have here, which was almost nothing. Like, that path of education and kind of opening that world up is, completely
You guys
different.
have programs now like film design, and like
They
some of
do,
our younger people in the art department, they go to school for like production design, which is just kind of mind blowing.
Not quite as hands-on as, or at least it's a bit broader than I think maybe your education was. But
Right.
that exists now, but it didn't
It didn't.
15 years ago.
I left uni 10 years ago this year. I did film and moving image production, and off the back of that, a few interesting projects here and there, a little bit of cool stuff. But it is obviously most people you find fall into film from some other discipline. It's
Very much so.
Architecture.
Yeah.
A lot of architecture refugees where we are,
We're just not building real buildings anymore, but fictional ones. Why not?
Yeah, I feel like we're not cut out for reality.
No.
I think we're kind of two heads in the clouds kind of thing.
You could build a house, but it would burn down almost straight away.
Or just fall over.
Yeah.
But it looked really cool.
It would look amazing for half an hour.
A long time ago, I was interested in architecture, and I very quickly realized I had no interest in the mathematics that went with it, learning structural design or anything like that.
Yeah, the engineering is just, it's a level that I was never going to be able to wrap my head around.
Yeah. And you also have to deal with the compromise that making something real generally tends to come with.
Yeah, I find I do a lot of digital work because the sky is the limit. You can do anything within the virtual world. I'd love to be able to 3D print it out and build whatever you want. And I guess film is the extension to that. You guys get to make these things real.
Yeah, and we are getting into 3D tools, 3D printing tools, CNC machining, and so we do all our modeling now. Most of it is comprised of taking a 3D model that the art department builds, and then we print them out as scale models, and we all sit around it with the director and producers and go, hey, do we need to move this wall? Do we need to shift that wall? And then we can reprint it again, but they're one-to-one accurate representations of what we're building in the computer. And now we're actually starting to get into sets. I'm working on a movie now where we had a company build a big portion of our set through CNC and 3D printing.
You can large scale foam carving now. You can do everything like that, can't you? And,
yeah.
It's absolutely incredible things you couldn't do. You have to plaster it 10 years ago.
With all these new tools, we still build a set out of like wood and plaster and
It's the quickest to get up, I guess, and to make good solid forms to then lay everything on top of.
Yep.
A fantastic experience. Warner Brothers Leavesden, you can go see the original Harry Potter sets, and I always think it's so cool to see the back and the front of that, and to see what's written on them, because they've had to take these things apart and put them back together 10 times to get a camera in here, to do this, to do that, and almost there's a term in clockmaking that I'm now witness marks. where you can kind of see the production discipline marked into something. I think is always really, really interesting.
Good name for a production company.
Oh,
Witness mark.
Well, if you guys aren't doing anything next year, so you've stepped onto the production. Did either of you speak to anyone from previous films? I mean, your career, you've danced around all the big players, and you've been on Spielberg films. I assume you worked under Rick Carter.
Yeah.
So did you reach out to anyone, speak to anyone, kind of about their approach? Because I guess you're almost following the same. You're back designing another vehicle, designing another island, telling this story. And with the graphic design, you're back rebranding InGen for the fourth time and all this stuff. So where do you go to get kind of the background on that?
Well, I spoke to John Bell a little bit, which I didn't need to really, but I wanted to. And now I had an excuse to do it. So that was great. And he supplied us some archive materials, the kind of what he'd pen and ink sketches for the logos and that sort of thing. So we knew it was a complete departure visually, but we kind of wanted to trace its roots a little back to the original and kind of work things into it. So yeah, that was great. It was he was very generous with kind of showing what the work he'd done. He obviously archived all his work, so kind of really nice high-res scans, all his watermarker sketches, and they are. I mean, just getting to see them was probably more of the thing than using them as reference, because I'd found a lot of stuff online anyway.
Yeah.
But getting to see it and kind of talk to him about his workflow, that was...
Hearing the stories about where it comes from, and I think it's good motivational fuel as well, even if it doesn't directly inspire anything.
Trying to live up to John is that's...
he's been on some amazing... The Back to the Future trilogy is so him, or the colour scheme, I mean, he does a lot with colour, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying to you earlier, you look at his sketches for things that never got made, and even the offhand sketches are still some of the most beautiful things you've ever seen. And you're just like, oh, okay, that's a hard thing to live up to, but it's great kind of seeing what's in his mind, and kind of you can work from those kind of... He has a really great sense of form. Like all those in Back to the Future 2, he designed so many of the kind of world building props, which was a prop design and a graphic all in one, and maybe an action piece, and his fingerprints across all of that. So it's great. Kind of it breaks you out of the mold of just thinking of this is just a graphic. It's how does it apply to this surface? What does this surface mean? What does this thing try and tell you that it does? And because he was much more multidiscipline, it's a great reference to work from.
God, that was a lot. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, you look through Jurassic and you look through Back to the Future and you look through, I'm trying to think, Men in Black and other stuff like that he was on. Yeah. And so much of the things that we know so well visually can all be traced back to him. His DNA's in it. So I guess it's important with a film like Jurassic that's all about DNA that you carry some of these threads through.
Very much so.
It's a film set now. Although interestingly, so you're creating a facility and a large part of the film on this island that's from a period 17 years ago. 17.
That was never really ironed out, was it? It was kind of it was a bit.
It wasn't necessary, really, I guess, in the end.
Things haven't changed, I suppose, that much, really, have they? Like, there's sometimes you watch something and I struggle to believe that it's 12 years old. I'm like, no, that's crazy. It feels like it was yesterday.
Were you surprised when you saw the title card that kind of gave like dates and times of the movie? Did that?
It was because I don't think that was in the script.
No,
we knew it was tied in back to a prior time. The contradiction was a little bit that Gareth wanted to make a movie that felt future forward.
Yeah.
So the way I kind of bullshit my way through it is that it's almost like kind of Lockheed Martin in like the 70s when they were developing like stealth technology. Like I think they had, what's the triangular one? The
stealth bomber.
The stealth bomber, and there's the
F-117,
which is just looks like low polygon model making. That was developed in the 70s, but I don't think the public saw it until late 80s or mid 80s or something, decades beyond the development. So the way I bullshit my way through it is that, well, this facility, even though it was developed over a decade ago, the technology is the most advanced technology. They put a lot of money and resources in developing this for the park, and that's why it looks a little bit more advanced than
you go back to the first film, and it's something Jurassic did so well that it used a lot of real technology that existed at the time, but that at a consumer level you'd not seen. And it feels so futuristic, but it was all practical and real. The arm moving and turning the eggs, that's a real thing. And they just, someone puppeteering, the touch screen in the cars.
Right. I think a lot of things people don't realize that in 1993, most of us didn't have a home PC. So So that kind of suite of control computers in the control room, we didn't have that technology at home to reference.
Yeah.
So it did seem sufficiently advanced at the time.
It's something Jurassic's done really well, tapping into, the things that are out there and will be coming. But I mean, now you watch the film and you're like, oh, a CD-ROM, really?
I know this. This is Silicon Graphics.
We had mini
Oh
discs.
my God, Silicon Graphics. That's a throwback.
Yeah, I think that's a testament to also Michael Crichton's writing. Though he was always writing
He was
about
very aware
technology
of
and
technology,
the
yeah.
medical industry, and so that always played into his stories. So I think just Jurassic had a lot of that in there, and I think Rick Carter did a great job of playing off of, making things feel real and nostalgic, almost in like a Disneyland format, but also behind the operation, there's higher technology. And
It's a really great comparison there to Disneyland. About 2 weeks ago, I was at Magic Kingdom on the Carousel of Progress, and I had never ridden it before in my life, sat down in this revolving theatre, and as soon as it started to move, I was like, this is Jurassic Park. This is what this is. And I'd never made that
is
connection.
that Anaheim? Where is that?
I think it must be both. It's in Orlando, but it was for the World's Fair, I guess, in 64, 74.
Yeah.
And then Walt Disney brought it home. Very, very clever. Get someone else to finance your rides and then just bring them home when you're done.
Right.
But it's a really good comparison. But then obviously with Rebirth, you've got a bit of a departure from that you don't have the theme park aspects at all with your design work. It's a lot more industrial, a lot more utilitarian.
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 Yeah. A lot of that does
sterile, isn't it? Like the sterility was kind of
and there's a certain level of machine making and almost kind of a military level quality to it, and a lot of that is it comes from Gareth. Gareth has just a great head for design, and speaking of reference, like he would just offload hundreds of images onto us of like, here's what graphic design I want, here's what vehicle design, or like here's kind of images of labs, and so he was very involved in where he wanted it to go, and I felt sometimes I was just there to just keep up with him.
A bit of a conduit to an editor to kind of pick out the best.
I don't know about you, but I've worked with non-visual directors on really big movies, and part of me is like, how's that even possible? But the great thing about Gareth was he understands big visual, small visual. And so when we were chucking kind of graphics to him, he'd actually really paying attention to all the tiny things and how it almost worked as punctuation on a wider part of design. And he could follow that flow down, which for me was unique, because normally the graphic they want to see is like the story graphic, the letter from the lover, or the thing on the computer that says
push to close.
Everyone can die.
Yeah.
But he just seemed to really like that kind of cohesive look all the way through. And his references are also, he's visually very well educated.
We're all children of, not only Star Wars, but like Aliens or Alien or, Back to the Future, like all that kind of 80s popcorn stuff. So it played a lot into, the visual, not only like the actual set design, but like the lighting and the composition and graphic design, and all of it kind of plays into what we all kind of grew up with.
It was very disparate. He really liked his graphic thing. Was he really liked the Design of the Republic stuff that was used in Wipeout in 2000s, which itself is taken from graphics in the 60s modernized. He also really loved like the stuff from Alien, which is a completely different look, that kind of heavy
iconography is
industrial.
it's great.
And so one of the jobs was just trying to and he also liked something about Japanese sci-fi, right? He quite liked kind of, so just
Manga
trying to
and
compress them into like one cohesive whole. That was quite hard, but he liked all the best bits from those things. So the tastes were impeccable. It was just a case of working out what percentage, and sometimes it'd be like 2% of this to add to something. But it was at least he was kind of working from those kind of that really wide book of ideas.
That's really, really interesting. I think you see that throughout the film. Alien's a really good call, because I feel like everything in that is so radically different. You have like universal symbol language, and it doesn't use any of that. It uses a completely, I guess, Sid Mead?
Sid Mead, but Ron Cobb more specifically, he developed an entire, was it Aliens or Alien?
Alien, the semiotic standard thing?
Yeah.
That was Alien, yeah.
So a whole language of understanding, what corridor you're in, or symbology depicting, what direction you'd go in the spaceship. But Ron Cobb, I mean, speaking of these guys, back in the day, art departments were much smaller, and you would have somebody like Ron Cobb who would not only do set design, but character design, creature design, ship design, and then they didn't have a graphic designer in house.
It was
sometimes.
them,
It would be the illustrator or the concept artist, and if you had somebody like Ron Cobb who had a great eye, he would sit down and just develop all of it. And those are the kind of guys we grew up with. These books, the Color Vision or something that he did. These books that are really hard to get. They're antiques at this point.
Yeah.
But Sid Mead is another great example. That there were very few of these kind of artists, but we were hungry to like find them and kind of understand like how they clicked.
I guess by having that smaller kind of team, you end up with a much more cohesive film, or visually at least. And I feel like Rebirth really does that really, really well. I mean, Matt, you did so much stuff. Like, some films, I guess, you come onto, and graphic design is probably a very small portion on one particular area. Whereas this, it's like there's almost nothing you didn't get to touch in at least some aspect or another.
That was James and Gareth, because you both love that kind of idea that all surfaces have graphics applied as textures. So, and because there are so many built elements like the Essex and all the engine island, I got to and all the hand props as well. So it needed me to put a pass and all that sort of stuff. So that was great. I mean, slightly overwhelming in the time that we had, because for Thailand, which is the first part of the shoot, we had to have pretty much everything done, right? The Jeeps had to be done, the boat had to be done, all the hand props had to be done, signage on the fences had to be done, so the engine look had to be established quite early on.
Yeah.
That was moderately horrifying, but yeah, it was great because you get to look at what Julian, the concept artist, had come up with, and kind of the physicality of what he was doing, and then prop making would give you a prototype of what they'd done, so you could feel it, and kind of maybe you'd see how a surface curves, or it was being done in clear, or Gareth loved that amber color, so you were seeing the textures and surfaces you were getting to work with. So that was quite nice to let your brain kind of bubble a little bit and pick things up and think what would look good there, and if you hold it in the light, where would the light catch it? I think a lot of the micro stuff didn't really get seen, but with the Jeep, I think every form of printing that I can do happened in the Jeep in some form.
Let's get into the Jeep, because it is really cool. I think it's one of the most marketable parts of the film. It's in all the merchandise, which is really,
you can't
really
buy
super
one.
cool.
Why are they not made like a one you can buy?
What, like a full size?
Yeah, it'd be great, yeah.
Oh, like a full size.
Yeah, I've got all the little models.
You'd do it, wouldn't you? You'd buy one.
We were really hoping you might turn up in it today, in pipe dream maybe. But,
I get a lot of DMs of like, how do I buy that Jeep? Kind of thing.
There's a guy in France who's got a Humvee and he's converting it into the thing.
Really?
Oh.
He's asked me to help him do the graphic. Yeah, it's people really connected with that thing.
It's a really, and it's obviously a completely bespoke vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
Well,
is
it's based of all things a Chevy Suburban chassis. I mean, it's crazy because you do have to think about, even though it's a big budget movie, you have to think about cost and what the relative cost to it is. The Jeep isn't being driven the entire movie. You see it at the end. You see a little bit in the beginning. So you have to keep costs down. And we had a manufacturer in LA build 5 of them for us.
That blew my mind, because I thought following the production that you had one that had gone to Thailand and then shipped back and stuff like that. And then Matt told me, Matthew told me that you'd built, which makes sense because obviously you need them for different uses on film.
Yeah, 2 of them were stunt vehicles, so they needed a whole different suspension, full stunt suspension, because they did take, I think, 2 of them to Thailand.
I think it was one.
Was it just one?
Yeah, and that was the least finished one because it was shipped straight from LA to Thailand, and
But it was a stunt version
Yeah.
that our stunt coordinator drove down these crazy windy roads.
which looks fun.
Really impressive drifts. I mean, how do you design something that can also I mean, I take it probably wasn't road legal, but
No, I
It was
mean,
dangerous just being around it.
yeah, it was loud and
Sharp.
and yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a beast. And it because it's a bespoke thing, it's not tested for safety or any of that. It's
who's got the time?
it's designed to look cool. So yeah, we built them. The manufacturer has done a lot of the.
It was Dennis Stewart.
No, that was our producer.
Dennis McCarthy.
McCarthy.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of Fast and Furious movies, so he knew how to build vehicles that needed to withstand a lot of weight, physics and weight and all that stuff. So, but we just wanted to design something cool, and it was just based on a quick sketch. And there's a guy, Daniel Frank, who he's a illustrator, but also kind of art director, model maker in LA. He worked on some of the Avatar sequels, and we just went back and forth. I was in London at that time, he was in LA, and we just massaged the shape and got it to a look that Gareth was happy with. And then when we found that look, then we got into like colorways of like, what is this, blue? Is it
75
green?
different versions, yeah.
And
It's amazing how much that with some of the art you've shared online, how it changes its identity quite a lot before landing on obviously the final design.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to do something different, but it came back to we literally chose the raw color of the security Jeep from Jurassic.
The Jeep was probably the first thing we had to work out what InGen looked like.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a test bed for what are the colours, what are these sort of things. And we were doing blue because I was doing blue originally because the InGen logo in the movies is blue.
Blue, yeah.
So that was kind of where I was going on. But I think after version 17, I kind of just said, I just sent a quite scruffy mock-up of a picture of the Wrangler on top of the mock-up, and then diagonal stripes of the kind of the red, black and beige. And
it's
it
the
just seemed to
Jurassic
click.
Park Jeep kind of the color scheme. It's so iconic, and yet they just got a regular sand beige Jeep and just painted 2 red stripes on it. Like, it's not that tough, but it works so well with the shape of the vehicle, the way the
in my head, the justification was in the novel. The Jeeps are mentioned in the book by having the red stripe because it makes the dinosaurs avoid them. I think it's a
it's like a
Triceratops.
deterrent, yeah.
Sees a red stripe, won't go near it, and that's
Yeah.
why I was pitching to you, maybe we can put red stripes on the buildings, which would have been crazy. But so I was like,
Well, we did play that into the Essex. if
That's
you
true.
remember.
Yeah.
We put a big red stripe, and that red is the exact same red as the Jurassic Park red, and the graphics on that, the camouflage was based on. There was a graphic artist in World War II, British graphic artist, who developed a system where German U-boats couldn't see the direction of which.
dazzle camo.
Yeah, is that what dazzle?
Yes,
Dazzle
yeah,
car, yeah.
you can't make out the features
The
of
bow
a
on the
ship
stern,
because
yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
very Oh, okay, on the Essex.
On the Essex. So we played that on the Essex as a way for dinosaurs to not understand which way the boat was going. But obviously, all the dinosaurs found that boat and destroyed it.
Same with the Jeeps.
It didn't really work that well.
the T-Rex.
Didn't fare very well.
But that was the idea. Like, it's in the book. It had a logic to it, but also let us do a bit of a kind of reference to the first movie. So the design was that this is in keeping in the world that was written in the books and also in the movies, but it isn't necessarily an obvious kind of. There's a logic to this. We're not just copying it for the sake of copying it.
A little segue on the vehicle that I think is very interesting, that in your role as a graphic designer, you've kind of also now leaning into the manufacture process, and that really seems to have come into play in Rebirth. And you brought some fantastic decals with you today, which I will now grab. And these are all from the Jeep?
Yeah.
And they're absolutely gorgeous. Let's hope that the camera can see that.
If you twizzle them, they kind of glint in the light. Yeah.
They're absolutely lovely. I mean, this is real metal.
Stainless steel, yeah.
And what sort of process do you go through with this?
That's an acid etch, and then they have it's infilled with ink and then sanded off. So they can work to quite small tolerances. You can see there's very tiny lines in there. But it was important because you design such a chunky real vehicle. 10 years ago, we'd have printed that on reflective vinyl foil and it looked good enough. I really wanted those to feel like they were
Probably
real,
wouldn't have held up for...
Well, for Thailand, yeah. Just like real decals that could have been stamped on. And in theory, if you drive it to gravel and they would scuff with stones hitting them. If you do them on steel, they'll rust. So
it's going to get real wear, which, if anything, might well add to the look of the film.
I mean, the scenic artists we have in the movies just do incredible work, but it's nice if you let it do a little bit of real grotting. Obviously, you take something out to Thailand, it will rust quite quickly. So
part of the challenge of doing all this work is you don't quite know where the camera's going to be at all times. So putting that level of detail into something that may just swipe camera really quickly is, it's a lot of work to put into that. So we have to kind of just cover everything because you don't know where that camera's going to be. And I think the camera does get pretty close to the Jeep when Scarlett rolls underneath it.
And we got some great production stills as well. I mean, Rebirth had Jason Boland as the unit photographer,
Yes.
and he did a really cracking job at getting in there and capturing things. The journey through following production was absolutely fantastic for Rebirth. It felt very different to any other kind of typical Hollywood film at the time. We really got kind of an on-the-ground look without giving too much away, you know, getting the kind of the feel of the film without diving.
It was nice you got to do, you know, we had like fences and barriers and signs all in states of decay. So you got to put those signs on them that kind of lingered in a very mysterious way, which is, I think it really helped sell the visual of the world.
Yeah.
Decay is always more fun than
There's a
shiny and
human
new.
obsession with it, isn't there? You can't help. And I always think it's interesting when you talk to someone or you take them somewhere where something's slightly abandoned, they always say, oh, that's quite Jurassic Park. Not realizing that there's nothing in the first film of that aesthetic at all. It's not till The Lost World that we get this kind of after man kind of approach. And it's a really good, the lab is a really interesting set, a really cool set. And you got to do 2 kind of takes.
Yeah.
On
You
that.
enjoyed smashing that up, right? I was a bit heartbroken, but
I
you
didn't.
actually,
I didn't want to at first, but when I got into it, I couldn't stop. But
you were on there kicking stuff over and
yeah, I mean, it was the most expensive set for the film, just mainly from a manufacturing standpoint and a scale standpoint. Gareth wanted a very large door at one end that would
Kind of like a
in case-
vault, it feels like.
He's got an obsession with a round door, a very large round door. He's obsessed with it. You'll see it in most of his movies. But yeah, it's a little bit of a vault. It's a little bit of like imagine at a zoo where you have the outer section, the pin where the dinosaurs or the animals roam, and then sometimes they'll have like a barrier and a cage that will open into like basically like a little surgery area if they have to bring a rhino in and do surgery on it. They often just transport it right off the pen. So it's kind of the idea, and we wanted to go super high tech with it, and bringing in these kind of monolithic structures to feel like it's a little bit underground. I don't know if you get that impression.
Oh, no,
but
100%. It definitely felt kind of subterranean.
Yeah.
And it's got that classic Jurassic, the concrete kind of buttress
Yeah,
look.
gotta have a
But then
buttress.
also the kind of modern Jurassic World, clean white stainless steel.
Yeah. I mean, Jurassic Park, the kind of behind the scenes part of it, of these kind of almost like German pillbox bunker kind of shapes playing into the aesthetic, but we just wanted to push it as far as we could. But yeah, and then we got to destroy it. We shot it all clean and then completely
I
destroyed
guess
it.
you have to make sure you've really got your coverage then if you're then going to go and do all that to it.
Yeah, for sure, because they typically, for a set like that, they may hold on to it for a week or two before they strike it, just in case they need to go back. But I think we got in there and destroyed it pretty quickly.
it was like a month from like clean to destroyed, I think, in camera, less than a
Yeah,
month,
it
I
was
think.
3 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love. I think it goes back to Star Wars. I've seen, you go from like 2001: Space Odyssey, where everything's kind of clean, to Star Wars, where it's like
Everything's beat up, been around
greasy
the
and
block,
dirty,
yeah.
and so I love kind of playing into that as much as we can. It's fun.
Plus, that said, loads of kind of nooks and crannies and like little walkway at the top as well, which when it's in that wreck state,
Very
it
multi-level,
it
wasn't
becomes
Yeah.
kind of a bit of an adventure playground, which is
And
like
that,
action figures. You can just
yeah.
you can see the toy version in your head with the levels.
Oh
and
man, I want that toy.
Yeah.
They got to make that.
Yeah, I think I've seen some lovely white card models of the
Oh, really?
of the lab set, which I'm a big lover of set blueprints and white card models and stuff like that. I think it's nice to. It's weird that perhaps because it's not trying to look photoreal, it feels cooler because that's a hard thing to get to.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, playground is a good way of putting it, because we didn't have time for a lot of storyboards in the movie, so we had to create playgrounds that Gareth can just bring camera into and get all his shots. And the actual like command center area was elevated. We purposely made it elevated so you can see over the lab, but that wasn't in the script, and we just want to create as many little pathways and walkways that people can walk, so Gareth can just get his camera as many positions.
It was a really cool area in that you did a lot of the design work for the elevated kind of the big map, which is really. I'm surprised it wasn't.
which no one can see because it
It's
doesn't
got, like,
line
two
up with
shots in the
anything
film.
in the film, so I don't want anyone to see it. And
But with flashing
Very
LEDs,
cool
I mean,
map.
often that would just be a screen on set, but to do that as a physical, practical element.
That was I think that was in the script, because the thing is, when David wrote that script, I imagine he was visualizing the labs of Jurassic and the Lost World.
Yeah.
And probably didn't really expect, because I think in the script there was lots of stuff like there's drawings on the walls and that sort of thing, and then you put no walls in, which is great.
Nowhere to put up.
Yeah, there was that
drawing.
thing like that. We were like, do we do this or not? Because it's not that kind. It was very much like a scribbled note sort of lab, rather than the super high tech clean
It
room.
was not described as this kind of almost James Bond kind of lab.
Yeah,
Ken
that's really
Adam
good.
kind of built set, but again, we had the opportunity to do it, and we took that opportunity, and you know,
The
hopefully
scale really. You couldn't have the D-Rex being that big, and then the lab being.
No, of course.
The scale was.
believe
the
me,
right
it was
thing.
much bigger in the drawings.
I remember those drawings,
It was
yeah.
3 times.
The lab or the D-Rex?
The lab.
The lab.
Yeah, we had stage 11 and 12, which were 2 stages that they combined. We were gonna put the lab in there, but it would have just been a ridiculous size and cost. So
And for how much how much screen time it's getting. I mean, the
I
opening
think in the
scene is
script
incredible.
there's a lot more lab than in the final cut, because there were the little animatronic guys in the pods that they were going to look at, and I think there was
The little frog guys. That
Yeah. and there was much more scripted action with the map when they were kind of working out where they were going. So I think they cut through it quite quick. But
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's not like in Jurassic Park where you do spend a lot of time, you know, with Nedry and his kind of area. This is just beginning of the movie, kind of end of the movie. You do have to understand how much of the build versus how many pages in the script. But there certainly was more in the script.
Yeah. So moving over to the Essex, talked a little bit about that. I'm kind of amazed at how many different versions of it you had to build for the film.
Right. Me
You
too.
know, I assumed it was just that gimbal in Malta, but no, you had a practical boat. You had an interior set. You had the little stern section in Thailand.
Which is the first Essex, I think, first one on camera.
Right at the back.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard anybody say it, but I take it the silhouette is very Orca-esque from Jaws, and I feel like that must be deliberate because there's so many homages to Spielberg and his work throughout the film.
Yeah, I mean, it was purchased prior to me actually even being on the film. Production found it. It's an old patrol boat, and they just acquired it. It was a good price. They bought it. I think Mr. Spielberg signed off on it directly, so maybe that had something to play into the Orca.
He has a lot of affliction for it. He did a great interview with Deadline or somewhere. He's a golf cart on the Amblin office going through the Universal backlot, and he tells the story about how the Orca. Nobody thought Jaws would be a success, so they sold it, and then it was a success, so the studio bought it back, dumped it on the backlot, and it
He
sat
would
there
go
for
there as his private office.
Exactly, and then it sank, and they tore it up, and he ripped some executive up over it. But
Yeah, I mean, it started out as this 75-foot patrol boat. It was pretty junky inside and outside. We went and saw it in Malta. The third week I had been on the film. It just bellowed black smoke.
So yeah, people started getting sick on board. Yeah, I've heard about
Yeah, I mean, it was a dirty old thing, but Gareth wanted to kind of update it and do some interesting new lines to it. Worked with this guy Haisu, who does a lot of great model making in 3D, and we kind of designed this new ship and brought on an art director, Mark Harris, who's kind of a legend in Hollywood, going all the way back to Empire Strikes Back. We just came up with a new shape, and we initially pushed it to where we almost stripped the entire top of it off and practically put a whole new ship on top of it. But like everything, it's based on cost and time, and we did the pieces we could do in the time that we had, and we created a whole new crow's nest and upper kind of deck to it. We stripped the entire top deck off and put a new deck on. The interior was all like laminate wood, so we weren't going to use the interior. It was too small for our use, so yeah, we built a bigger scale interior back on stage. So we had a real boat, and we took everybody out in the real boat in the Seas of Malta, and then we had BGI, a fabricator, make half the boat on a massive gimbal that SFX built, and we shot it in a tank in Malta.
Which looked amazing.
Yeah.
They make such incredible stuff.
Well, the behind the scenes of that has been incredible. I mean, it's uncanny. I wouldn't know if I just saw it from the top up, you wouldn't know.
It's a really weird thing to see such a large object like do this.
it's
It
in the
was
video,
kind
yeah.
of terrifying to stand there, and you think it's just gonna like fall over or fly at you, but it's these SFX guys are amazing with what they can do. And then we took that half, we brought that back to the UK to shoot some other scenes on, and then yes, we had an interior that we fully developed and redesigned completely.
I
from the
did
ground up.
notice in the behind it's got that Millennium Falcon effect where it's a bit wider than probably
Yeah, it got bigger and bigger. Gareth, he wanted to get his camera in the set.
Yeah.
He didn't want to wild any walls. He wanted to get the camera in, and then the way he wanted to shoot it was just kind of around the center, this kind of map desk, map
table.
table.
Kind of, yeah.
And then he just wanted to shoot 360 around that. So based on that,
I
that's how
think, obviously,
It's
from a
still quite
technical perspective,
claustrophobic. It's big, but
yeah.
that low ceiling, I think, really.
There's some great scenes in there, especially once the family are on board, and I think it does have the benefit of having a completely immersive set where you can go wherever you want and not have to worry about the angles. Is as a filmmaker, especially as Gareth, who I'm assuming came up with 1,000 ideas on location and just wanted to run with them.
Yeah, he vomits ideas.
You had that nice light coming through the little top hatch windows, and
Yeah, I think that was
really
a
great
John Matheson thing, the DP, where they delivered, like, part of our design didn't really have windows on the top, and they're like, well, if we put windows in, you can shoot light through it, and then the light will move across an actor's face. So there's little details like that is really helpful to work with a big team of like coming up with all those ideas. I don't know if we did any Easter eggs on the interior of the ship.
there was definitely Orca-esque bits, but hidden in tiny paperwork you'd never have seen.
Yeah.
I think
We did some Easter eggs on the bar that you see in the beginning of the film, which was shot in Thailand. There's they even built like the foot plate on the orca where they fish off of.
Quint's chair with
we kind of rebuilt the foot plate and mounted it on the bar itself.
Amity Island license plate.
Littered with so many different. So I think there were a couple.
Most of them were Suriname plates
Yeah.
that we remade from scratch, but we chucked one in for Dennis and one in for Amity Island. And I don't know if it's by design or happy accident, the Amity one there's a nice close up as the camera moves down. It's framed by the jaws of the megalodon in the bar. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just it's one of the few that's kind of actually visually seen.
Again, a really, really cool set that on the water. And what was that before you took over that structure?
It was a very dangerous structure that Dennis Stewart almost fell through. Because it's so tidal in this fishing village. I think it's a 6-foot tidal range. So everything's on stilts. It has this like very interesting look to it, but it's a functioning, real fishing village. I mean, you'd walk through that village and people are chopping up heads off of fish and like they're living in that community. So we had to be, conscious of our presence there. But it was an abandoned structure that we had engineers come in and retrofit all the work so it can withstand a heavy camera and cast and crew. We kept the roof and we kept some of the interior, but we kind of retrofitted the entire thing. The reason doing it that way and not on a backlot or on a soundstage was, again, Gareth just wants to do 360 views of everything. He doesn't want to.
It's the sort of place where there's going to be a lot of depth, a lot of random things happening in the background. That
Atmosphere and
market-esque vibe.
light.
Yeah, we did this. You guys did an amazing mural on one of the buildings. Unfortunately, he just really never saw
Was that
it.
a JP3 reference?
Yeah, so Louise, the graphic designer, she did the mural.
Yeah.
Not to take any credit for it. But yeah, I wanted to include that kind of dinosaur.
I feel like does it even have Ben and Eric, the silhouette of them on the hang glider?
Maybe we're getting a bit. Now, initially, I think the first party was a red one. I wanted to do that Jurassic 1 red sunset graphic. So the whole thing was really sticky red. But I think that would have been a terrible backdrop to the actor. So I think we went through, that was our first big graphic. We went through a lot of variations in that. Yeah, not, and I think it was like 20 meters long. So we sent the artwork out, and the scenic place in Thailand reinterpreted it, and we did it deliberately quite ropey with kind of
hand painted.
Yeah, and I think the dinosaurs were kind of a bit more pre-Jurassic in their style. The kind of the
deliberately
kids' books.
so. Yeah.
And they did a great. And once that had gone through the thing of being blown up and reinterpreted by a hand-drawn artist, it got an even more kind of organic and it looked really good. But I think it's visible in the trailer maybe, but it's.
I've definitely seen some pictures of it. I can't recall in the film.
Do you think it's still there?
It might have done. It leaked very early. So,
well, I guess the filming in Thailand, it's a very different to filming in these typical, locations you might go to more commonly. Filming here in London, for example.
Yeah.
Whereby, like, you're not going to have the level of control that you would have in a city or anything like that. I think we saw videos of people just walking. There was definitely a video of somebody walking past Gareth while he was directing, just hiking through the jungle.
There's no security in Thailand.
I mean, we literally built part of our temple in this national park, and we were told we cannot obscure the trail up to this beautiful waterfall in the back of the national park. So people unknowingly literally walked through our set to get to this waterfall. There was they must have been so confused of this like ancient temple. Just saying.
It happens here. People bat their eyes and go, "It's just another film production." But to them, it must have been very, very uncommon. Not the sort of thing you'd see every day. That I think I know the set you mean in front of the pond.
Yeah,
that's the one thing. The shot of Loomis falling into the pond and then popping up. I was convinced that was a Texas double, where the stuntman falls into the pond and he's already under the water, ready to pop up. And there was a visual effects breakdown recently where it wasn't. It is just a CG double and he pops up. I was so disappointed. I thought it was classic old Hollywood. It was the perfect opportunity to do it, but
I think the difficulty of where we shot in so many of our Thailand locations, it was difficult getting crew in there. So anything they can do to kind of not put up, because a stunt like that would require a lot of stunt rigging. And they probably, but then again, we did bring in a Huey helicopter and hang it from the trees, which you could have almost done that as a CG helicopter. But
I think it was pretty heavily redone.
I think it was.
Yeah,
I think it was. But there was a real helicopter hanging from a crane.
I think we saw some pictures of it and the corpses piled up in a production office somewhere.
Yeah, and they didn't get to see that. They took a cast or a scan of my head.
A really great face. Yeah.
So I was a dead corpse for a while, and don't think I made it in.
Did you get any other cameos in the film in New York or?
No, there was no time for it.
Your initials are quite large on the lab set.
My initials?
Yeah, just JCD, which stands for James Clyne Design.
Really?
And in this,
I don't think you ever even told me that.
Have you seen the theatre standees where it's the lab, and you can put your head through the hole, and it's
yes,
that has your initials all over it for some reason because they reuse that graphic on it.
Oh.
And say when my wife's initials are all over.
Oh, absolutely.
The pre-marketing.
Having now seen so much of your work, the number of times I see MJC or DMC12 or 1.21 gigawatts. But obviously you've got to fill the space, and why not?
Yeah, a lot of it isn't necessarily deliberate Easter eggs. It's sometimes if you have a set of words or letters that you know how they look, when you're laying something out, this is my excuse, it really helps to work with something familiar.
Yeah.
So when you're doing kind of, because the typography was such a big thing for you and Gareth, one of the things I was telling you is that, I think it was either caution or danger one of the two looks better uppercase or lowercase. So you actually have to pick which one you're using. Sometimes I think danger works better uppercase because then it's all blocked. But doesn't work at all lowercase because you have the tail of the G.
I'm now looking at your design.
So sometimes it's hard. So
you've got it in lowercase.
Yeah, so when I do filler graphics, I tend to just use phrases that I remember and know how they should look right. But yeah, so I know sometimes it's ego and getting my wife's name into a film. So, yeah.
And I suppose you've got to work quite quickly, so you probably have a toolkit of stuff that you can just
there are
micro
little
detail
bits
you can dump in.
Yeah, I mean, I think even on that, there's maybe a couple of tiny bits in there from probably Fast 9.
Oh, interesting.
The smaller silver boxes with the tire pressures and stuff. Because sometimes you go into that with best of all in the world of like replacing it later. Things move so fast.
Well, there's also a level of clearances too, that everything has to go through clearances. And if we know that something is bespoke or
we made it. Yeah.
That process just gets going a lot faster.
And you don't
Crew
know
names
what
or badges.
detail, you might put something small in that's not that big a deal. And, fan backlash these days, you can watch a film 20 years ago, you watched a film in theaters, you get it on VHS, but you couldn't pause it, you couldn't zoom in on things. These days, people will have 4K copies at home and they will analyze every micro detail. Star Wars is obviously massively torn apart because everyone wants to know how every single prop is put together, what it's made of, things like that. You had the misfortune.
I was going to say, is this the mosasaur?
This is the mosasaur.
You probably haven't heard about this, have you? So remember, really early on, Gareth had that picture he'd mocked up of a dead dinosaur that the fisherman had dredged up, and he wanted to put it in the bar, and so he asked us to make a bunch of like candid photos, Polaroid photos of people in the dinosaurs. But he wanted that fishing image.
Yeah,
So it was a sort of like the photo of the dead shark from the first Jaws.
I kind of came back to the I forget what it's called, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Probably
the
also
one, what the hell's the sea creature called? Never mind. It reminded me of that kind of beached on the.
Yeah. So he wanted that thing, basically like a candid photo that showed the consequences of dinosaurs being free in our world, and so he wanted us, and he used AI to mock up the picture, which we couldn't use. We had to recreate it, and I did ask if we could have access to the ILM models, but we'd need someone to render them, and it was one of those things like a little director request would have probably worked
bloomed up
like
into something so much more.
Five figures in terms of labor and time, and we had to do it really quickly to ship out to Thailand. So Nadine, one of our graphic designers, did the right thing by reaching out to Universal, asking for any assets they had of dinosaurs. They sent back the mosasaur from Jurassic World, which she then photoshopped and moved around, and then we posted it online a couple of months ago, and the fan base went crazy because they're like, "Oh, so you killed the mosasaur off screen? You killed our mosasaur from the last." But no, it's just the thing.
People build a lot of attachment.
Yeah,
to,
they were very upset, and I think the first people to post it were the Graphics Union, which are kind of a group of people who help promote graphic designers. They didn't work on the film, but they were getting torrents of abuse. People like, it's so disrespectful. How could you kill this animal this way? My childhood is ruined. And it was just a little background photo. It wasn't even meant to be seen. It was just texture.
Yeah.
So that was, I mean, that's how we learned how seriously Jurassic fans take
They are hardcore. But I think that's true of any big franchise. I think Star Wars is the same, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. People, it's almost like a religion for them.
Well, again, we were slightly looser with continuity in ours because we were under the impression it was very much removed from the kind of events. But I think it feels like they tied the film in more after the fact.
Yeah, I
maybe.
mean, there's only so much homework you can do on that level. When you're
Especially
running
in 12
so
weeks.
fast.
Yeah.
And you don't want it to get in the way of the story because that's really the most important.
No. Hopefully the audience is paying attention to the story and the acting and some of the fun set pieces, but they're not paying attention to all the little nuances. Obviously, it is fun to go back and kind of look at all that, but our job is to create a backdrop and create a setting that allows the actors to act in.
Speed.
And we're moving so fast, and they're such large teams of people that things are gonna kind of fall through the cracks. But that's
Is there anything since the film has finished that you've watched and been like, I wish I could just go back and tweak that one thing? I know you obviously have to be very good at letting go at the end of a production. You have to call it, it's done, this is as far as we take it. But
I wish I'd stuck an InGen sticker on the raft.
Yeah, the raft needed a little something.
But that was the thing. It was in Thailand. I never saw it, and it just we were moving again at such speed those days that unless someone said this is the thing you need to do, it wouldn't occur.
We had so many graphics on the boathouse
And the bag.
and then the bag, and then you get the boat, and there's like nothing on it. But
If there's a director's cut, I'll do it for free. Just let me give me a chance to.
I think I was pretty happy with. I always want the movie to be longer. I always want the movie to pace out to where you spend more time in these worlds. And I know there's all this pressure to make a movie at for a certain time. But I always feel like I just want to see things more and have the camera kind of be a little bit slower. Sometimes, not that I'm telling Gareth.
Gareth is good about
Can
it.
you just focus on this?
He likes to shoot a set, right?
He does,
And he
and
finds
if he can,
angles,
he will keep it in. But based on story and the time of the movie, you do inherently have to cut stuff out and move the movie faster and faster. But I think there was a lot there that we were able to get in there.
I would say the ratio of stuff that's been done to what was seen was much higher on Jurassic than most movies I've worked on. usually it's about 30% that you make get seen, but maybe this was 50. It was.
Stan Winston did a great quote a long time ago now, where he sort of said like, 50% is seen on screen, but we have to design to 90%. We have to make it feel real, because like you said, you don't know where the camera's going to go, how close it's going to come to something. You want to build for that flexibility.
Well, someone has that last minute idea on set. Wouldn't it be great if we shot through this and it did, and just kind of go, okay. And you have to make sure we're covered in that eventuality.
Yeah. So there's always a scramble on the day of like, oh my God, they're putting the camera right there. Let's move this phone booth into camera, because we thought the phone booth was going to be background, but now it's being used as like let's put Scarlett behind it.
Fly the wall off the back of the lab for the one that said the big
Oh,
engines.
for the big camera, yeah.
So they just had to redo the set so it could lift off, and that was like a morning panic thing. Yeah, that's what's great about. Sometimes really amazing things happen when that kind of last second thing appears on set.
Yeah, it's part of the creative process.
I would never have had the kind of awareness that the art department's role continues well into production. Like, you have supervising art directors there on set to kind of, I guess, as things do crop up, to action. And
we do. We have like a supervising. We have a supervising art director. We have art directors that are tied to each set, but we also have a standby art director, and their role is to be on set, making sure there's continuity. And then even if there's things that kind of pop up, oh my God, we need like a little bit of an object in camera because they just want to come off of it. And we're not ready for it, but we'll have
Figure something out.
standby
there's a man
props.
with an inkjet printer ready to make
Yeah, or we'll just standby props. We'll just shove something in front of camera just to get something, a little bit of composition.
It's not really a job that's talked about much, but standby art director there's a lot of pressure on things. If things break, they got to fix it. If the director wants the vase to be blue rather than green, they need to cut with coloring pens. Just like it's
a hard job.
And it's on the fly. It's live.
Sarah, our standby, did an amazing job. She actually broke her knee on set doing like holding a door open or something, and she was in it, and it's a difficult day because you're constantly trying to re-engineer where things have to go or keep it to camera. I don't think I could do it.
I did it. That's why I'm in graphics, because it used to be in TV. You go art department assistant, and you can either become a graphics person or standby art director. Move up to art directing, and I'd done a few jobs as standby art director, and it was physically and mentally brutalizing.
It's hardcore.
It wasn't really. There's not much art in it. It felt like, so I went to graphics, which is kind of how I ended up where I am. But yeah, it's an underappreciated.
Very much so. Yeah.
We mentioned the raft shack and the bag very quickly there, and I think it's something I didn't occur to me at the time, but in some other films that would have just been a concrete building with a tin roof. But instead
we've started that way.
Okay, but we've ended up with this really quite cool and unique. I mean, I don't even know how to describe. A bit of a silo kind of vibe. And
did you design it to be like a modular plop and?
Where does that come from? Like, where do you?
Again, these are conversations you have quickly with Gareth, where he just wants things to feel elevated and a little bit sci-fi and a little bit pushed. Initially, it was kind of just a concrete bunker. You're like, well, why would they have this here? Well, it services a need, an emergency need, if you need a boat or a flashlight or something. And then it just evolved into just being a little bit more techie and a little bit more techie. And I think once you put it in the setting, because we shot that on a real pond in Thailand with real trees and real heat and mosquitoes,
when you show me the brushes for that, you get the brushes the following day.
Yeah,
and we saw that kind of steam and mist and that greenery. It was like, this is something special. Yeah.
So it really embed into the environment, and then all the kind of props that went into that, especially the raft bag itself, was very kind of.
We've been talking a little bit about that offline. I really want a little miniature raft bag. I think would be a cool little.
I wish I'd asked to keep one. It was one of those things. Sometimes I don't know why that was my favorite prop of the movie, but it was that black print on the yellow vinyl. It was real
high contrast.
Yeah, and obviously because that was a scene from the first book, and wanted to see it as a kid. To do that was pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah, it really adds. You could have just had a raft maybe already inflated, but something a lot simpler. But to have it in that kind of format. Although my favorite thing to do watching that scene is to watch where the oars go, because they go all over the place. They're on the side of the bag, and then they're somehow in the raft. And after the T-Rex chews it up, they're still there. But the magic of storytelling.
Did you catch that the graphic on the bag was post?
No.
So when she's put in the bag, it says it's that one saying inflate on land, which you had to do afterwards. Apparently, the audience notes were like, "Why is she inflating it now?"
Right.
And so Gareth got me to do post things, and I was trying to keep it like the original one, and it was like this big. And they kept saying, "No, you have to make it bigger and clearer and clearer." And to the end, it was just that
It
big.
works. I think you nailed it. It's inflate on land and raft bag will sink if not
there
inflate.
were all notes from Gareth being like, "You have to make it," because the audience saying, "Why has she done this? Why didn't she just like carry it across the river?" Which to me seemed crazy because it clearly was very heavy because she could barely move it. Then how would it float? Anyway, so yeah, I was sort of trying to keep it within this small technical detail, and Gareth like, "No, bigger, make it clearer, make it clearer." And so I was having to work all these pictograms out of how do you illustrate a box sinking without looking slightly comedic.
I'd never noticed that if you hadn't pointed it out. And the irony is there is still one shot in the film where it's
the wide,
hasn't been replaced.
We did a few. I think the flare box at the end, that was a post.
Oh, really?
So I just put like emergency supply box. I think again, people like, how do you find a flare so conveniently?
Yeah.
So we had to kind of really, but it was nice going back to that world a little bit and kind of finessing things and seeing early passes at the world building in CGI, because it obviously when he's on that gantry at Elstree, it's just there's Watford behind him.
Yes, it's a
So,
big CG replacement.
As I saw him building facility out in CG, that was really quite exciting. I mean, the VFX work in that movie I think it's fabulous. Given how
did you have a
quickly
lot
it was
of
done.
practical? It would be fog, I guess, on set or.
Yeah.
Steam.
SFX had all these massive steam machines. In fact,
We were vinyling in the steam. Do you remember that? That was fun.
yeah, that was fun, right?
We were
Late at
vinyling
night. Those were all
vinyling the
night
pipes,
shoots.
and they were just like chucking steam at us. Which, obviously, vinyl loves being wet and hot. And
Oh,
the
yeah,
clothes
yeah,
were
yeah.
starting just to do that. And you sort of crawl out of there looking like you've been in the trenches. It was
Well, they had a massive machine that they had to bring on, like a pump to pump all of it, and they just rolled it right up on our set. And I'm like, well, what is this doing here? We can't have this. And they're like, well, we have to have it. So we painted it, and
it in.
Oh, you actually dressed
Matthew
it
put
for
some.
the-
We dressed it
Yeah,
for
wow.
in camera. I don't think you ever really see it in those shots, but the hope is that it would just embed right into our set.
But those night shoots when you're out there, and it was getting quite humid at that time of year anyway, with the steam and the lights, and all the greens that were put in and the fences and the light. When you were there, it felt really like being in that first movie.
It looked like a really incredible set.
was some really
with
good nights
all
on
that
that.
practical lighting as well.
Yeah, it was a cool set to build, and we initially had a location we were going to shoot at, this place called Corryton, which is a now decommissioned oil like
Refinery, Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
I guess a lot of industrial
East
piping
London.
and stuff. Yeah.
And we found out there's like no power there, so you can't shoot nights there, and it was just going to be a real thing. And so I proposed the set basically is one building, but each of the four sides represented a different part of the facility. So Gareth can be on one side and be like, well, we're actually over there. And we had to do a whole map of show where each side represented another building. There were like alleyways in between the buildings. Petrol station was on one side, the lab entrance was on another. But the hope is that you feel like you're entering a totally another building.
I think it
definitely
definitely
works,
plays, yeah. Especially to you, your fans that are going to microanalyze and be like, oh, well, that's just around the corner. What's going on there? But no, I think it plays really well. I have to admit, I didn't realize in cinemas that the gantry he was up on was the helipad at first. It was the only thing that surprised me rewatching on the digital. I was like, oh, okay, no, I get the kind of the geography of the scene a bit more now.
Well, in post, they did a lot of work that really makes the geography work, but you have to really kind of stare at it to study it. And
Yeah, and it's such a quick scene, very dynamic scene as well. Everyone's moving around quite quickly. Okay, so the Minimart, and I think we've seen that it probably started a bit larger in some of the concept art. I think that at some point maybe it was a Burger King as well.
Yes, there was a food court. That's
Yeah.
right.
Subway,
Which
Burger
it would have been a cool thing to see, but you can see why you would scale that down costs for how much it appears in the film. Absolutely fair.
Yeah, I think ultimately it was story. Gareth, when he saw the layout, didn't know how he was going to shoot those areas. It would have still been cool to have it kind of just background. It kind of looked
Jake,
really interesting.
when I first joined, that first draft, the script was much more like there's a dormitory and there's like maybe a cafe, but it wasn't quite so.
There was a whole cafeteria.
Industrial?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a whole cafeteria. I mean, the first draft played. I mean, there was multiple levels. They jump out a
Oh, and they keep
window.
knocking down walls or something.
Yeah, there was a whole nest inside.
Oh, wow, it's
like
amazing the
the-
stuff you forget through the drafts. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was much more expansive, but the producers didn't want it to feel like a big city at the same time, but it read like a full big facility.
There's
So
lots of traveling between buildings, wasn't there?
Yeah. But ultimately, the mini mart is kind of an ode to the kitchen, obviously, in the first film.
Aisles and
The aisles and kind of that play of hide and seek. And so it was designed off of a hide and seek kind of play. And we got into like details of like how high are those aisle dividers. Because in America, I think they're in America they're low. Here in the UK, they're quite high. And Gareth wanted to have shots of mutodons kind of
stalking over the top.
Stalking over the top. So there was a lot of like trying to figure out what the UK does versus what the US does, because technically it's a US corporation that comes into a South American island. So we had a lot of like food like Doritos and like American food, and we had to bring all that in.
Not readily available here, I suppose.
No.
And we had to do a lot of Dutch food because in Suriname they speak Dutch.
It's
and
a
we
Dutch
said there was
colony.
I was
some
gonna,
overlap.
that's really cool because obviously, you're in South America. In
Dutch
Jurassic Park, we see a
newspapers.
lot of Spanish signs across the island because a lot of the
Yeah.
construction workers are going to be from Costa Rica, etc. That's really, I didn't notice that in the film.
So it's like half American food, quarter Dutch produce, and then the other quarter was bespoke.
Well,
stuff we made.
Suriname was the island that they go to first
Yeah,
to pick up,
and I
and
think
then
the story was because they're so close to it, that's where the workers are coming from or something, like going to and from. I can't- there was a lot of logic. put into it.
multicultural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the aesthetic was very kind of like 7-Eleven kind of, simple kind of iconography and, different
That
sections of
tri-colour
different
scheme.
colors.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
hamburger sign, which you didn't want to go for. The sunset one. Those
Oh,
warm
yeah.
colours. You could. I think we were trying to do something
Yeah.
nice and warm.
It's a really interesting stark contrast to the rest of almost everything else you see in the film because it is that kind of over-the-top sunburst, very, very bright. But it's absolutely gorgeous, and it's lovely how almost out of place it feels in the middle of this dangerous environment. That little touch of home.
I think that's exactly what Gareth was going for, was the unsettling contrast between a creature that's trying to kill you and like seeing like
Milkshake
milk
machine.
and Snickers
Mix.
bars.
Yeah.
And you packed quite a few Easter eggs in there, I think.
I mean, I was out of control. I think I was showing you Easter eggs, and you were looking at me like, this person needs to go home.
I mean, the biggest one was the pinball machine. There was, what was it called?
Muldoon Mayhem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't get a lot of screen time in the film.
No.
but-
Again, you don't know what they're gonna put
No,
the
what they're gonna
camera
focus
on.
Nadine did a few in there, so she got and because Universal movie, they gave us use of the Back to the Future stuff, which was great. So we had a magazine in there. We were trying to get a Reese's Pieces E.T. standee. A very hard sentence to say. And I think we even bought the standee off eBay, a vintage one, before Universal. So we haven't got a partnership with
Reese's.
whoever it is. Yeah, Hershey's. So you can't do it. We should. Maybe that was the best. Maybe that had been a bridge too far.
I wanted to get a E.T. bobblehead at some point
That
for
was
the
it.
Essex.
Yeah.
But we never found one, did
I think
we?
they used that little T-Rex toy instead. Yeah.
Yeah.
The standee that the Mutadon knocks over,
The Red
cardboard
Rex,
T-Rex, that was based on the red T-Rex toy from the 90s, which was almost when I got that toy as a kid, I was disappointed because the boxes for the other toys had a picture of the Stan Winston model saying this is what you're going to get. And so when Christmas you unwrapped it, and what you actually have is a really red stripe. I was heartbroken, and that was my weird way of like dealing with that by putting it in the movie.
Yeah.
We built one of those, and then Gareth loved the idea of knocking it into the water, so we'd suddenly get 10 more made.
Where did the idea for the voice come from? Because it's quite a unique.
That was post, and the light up eyes. I think it was all post.
I think that was post, yeah. I think we knew there was going to be some kind of sound effect. Didn't know quite what it was going to be, but
And we had to. I mean, the wobbly head thing, like it wasn't quite proper, it wasn't quite graphic. So we were just in the office, because normally with those things when they're manufactured commercially, it's cardboard with a counterweight, so it rocks. And like we were saying earlier, I can't do counterweight maths. That's not. So we were kind of trying combinations of springs, and I was finding my suppliers and saying, "How do you do this for real?" And they were sending us various kind of. At one point, I was manually trying to snip spring lengths down to make the bobbling, because the head was sagging too much. And by the end of the day, I had like a handful of holes and blood everywhere, but like one slightly wobbly head that kind of did what it needed to do.
It's all these little things that you see the big picture of like, wow, you guys built this whole facility and all that, but there's like little details that, a red Gatorade in water, what does that look like? And how is that not only visible, but how does that kind of flow into a vent? Because that set, we built it to flood, just a few inches, but Gareth wanted it to have all water in it so you can get reflection. So there are all these like little things of like how to get red Gatorade to flow into a vent, and then how to get the water out of the vent. They had to pump the water out and to pump it back in.
Oh God, of course, yeah.
There's just a lot of little logistical things of like, and then where does that vent go? And then we had to like, that vent went to a whole nother set that we built up high that the actors can kind of go down and get the camera high. And
do you dig a hole? And that's it when Scarlett slides and drops down in the car park. Did you guys just build a giant hole in the backlot for that?
No. How did we do that?
There's two, because there's one next to the mart as well, the Loomis, and I feel like when they lift the grate up, and you feel like they're not going to go in it because there's not a hole. But I think the end of the shot, he does get in it up to his waist.
Yeah, we built a couple practical holes where you can get into your waist, and then we would cut, and we were on stage 11, 12, where we built a whole piece where you can do the reversing. But when she slides in, that was never deep enough for a full actor to get into. I don't remember when they did that. Maybe it was a post thing.
One of those things
the
that you
tunnel
notice
sets as well, very, very, very cool. And I mean, that's again, how do you make a tunnel interesting and unique? And I'll see shots from that sequence from now to the end of time, and always know it's from Rebirth because they're so distinct.
That's good. If you design one of the iconic sci-fi tunnels, that's a good
accolade. Again, that's a testament to Gareth. He didn't want just a round tunnel. He wanted some interesting kind of shape that was memorable. And then we had to figure out the height. What is the best height for somebody to like not crawl on their hands and knees, because that looks weird. You're just seeing butts and
becomes very undignified all of a sudden. Yeah.
But then you don't want it too high and make it too convenient. We had to understand what Scarlett's height was and all the actors' heights. And that was really one of the hardest sets to walk through. I remember showing Gareth through it the first day when we opened it. And it was kind of fun. We were all like kids on a playground because I built it. It's two floors, and there was a slide, two slides that would go from top to bottom. And Gareth, I don't think I had even gone down it yet, and Gareth just immediately went down it.
It does sound like him, yeah.
And everybody else followed him after that.
It looks like he was a joy to work with. There was another set pic came out last week of him paddling the raft down the river, and he just looks so happy. And David Vickery is up on the dock taking a picture on his phone, and it just looks like a joy. Like we were talking earlier that there's an adage in Fury, the Brad Pitt tank film, when they're talking about being in the war and stuff, and they say, "Oh, best job I ever had." And they wholeheartedly mean that, even though obviously it's incredibly hard and stuff like that. And I feel like the film industry is a lot like that. It's hard, sometimes probably soul destroying, but at the same time, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. I mean, we're a bunch of adults playing on a very expensive playground is what it comes down to. But yeah, there's long days and hard days and things that are very challenging at times. But ultimately, we get to like work in the space that we get to be creative. And, I mean, that's the ultimate thing, is we get to be paid to be creative.
Can we mention the dinosaur drawings?
Dinosaur drawings.
That one where in the script, there was David had written that on the walls there are like drawings of dinosaurs that are kind of hybrids, as if someone had gone, "Oh, what if a dinosaur had this but with all these legs?"
Because like cosmetic designing.
And we were like, well, we don't know if we're going to do that, and the set had no walls, and so I think we just agreed not to do it. And then on the night before the shoot, When the producers asked where they were.
Yeah.
So I think I worked from like 5 in the evening till 4 in the morning, just producing all these like clodging to, because Sophie, our graphic assistant, had done these really lovely normal dinosaur drawings for the set dressing for the Clean Lab. So I started taking those, and that's where that 4-legged Dilophosaurus comes from, or it had like a brachiosaur with a sail.
I mean, to be fair, that was in the script.
Yeah. I think we just kind of
But
decided.
we just decided not to do it.
Yeah.
And then the producer was like, it's probably Frank Marshall, was like, well, why isn't this
Why
on the
thing in
set?
the script not? So that was a fun night. But
Yeah. There's just things you can't plan for all the time. And you're either willing to like put the effort into it, or you're willing to like say, sorry, we're not going to have that. But
yeah, I think
it's hard to say no.
Especially also Gareth, who you know is going to really appreciate what you give him. So like if he wants another pass or an extra thing, you kind of go, yeah, that makes sense. Let's jump and do it. And he was always really appreciative of everything he got, which was nice. Like he came and thanked me on the lab set for the stuff, which was first time it's happened to me. That was really nice. And the lab set as well. So I think because we were always in the back foot after Thailand, because we had to get ready for Thailand and start the next lot of things. So even when we got to the lab and the backlot set, we were still up against it. And so the lab was a huge push, and then the market was a huge push, because dressing the posters on the walls, getting all the produce in.
Speaking of, we have a few of those here, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, do I have to hold them up like I'm on Blue Peter? But this is a good example of like cutting, well, not cutting corners, but kind of working quickly. So we did these before we actually had any of the props in. So these are all renders. So we just kind of went into Adobe Dimension, got crisp packets, takeaway cups, put our branding on, rendered it in the orange, and then you've got a product poster without having to arrange a photo shoot.
It holds up so well. They look great.
Well, the Scenic did a really lovely job of kind of putting mold and stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever really seen in like a complete way, but it's just texture, isn't it? It's unbelievable. You can believe these guys would get a cup of crappy coffee in the morning and then go and make a horrible dinosaur. Like
It really lends to scene decoration and design as a mode of storytelling and building out that world, because you're looking at it and people living here and working here and the life they would have had. It kind of really does a good job of expanding out.
Well, that's what I like about the job is, I guess the same for you. Like you get given a script, and then what's written has implications. And in your head, you build the narrative around how that works, and that's the bit of reality you bring to it, and everyone else's reality stack on top of it. Like when one of the first things I learned years ago was seeing we did like a pub set on something, and the standby artist started scrawling phone numbers on the wall next to the telephone, because that's what people in real life do, and that's what I realized. You're just adding in details that make this thing real, which is
and it's something that's not conscious. It's almost subconscious. Like on the bar in the film, someone had put up a little poster, and then somebody had accidentally ripped it down, but it kept the little edges of paper and the staples. I said, that looks awesome. Do it everywhere. So
that's magic. We love that.
There's just like little pieces of paper, and they just went around and ripped them all off as though, there was like a band playing 2 years prior or something. But all those little textures, they're not conscious, but they're subconscious. And if you it's almost like you don't have them, you'll notice it.
Yeah.
But if you do have it, you'll never notice it. And that's the challenge, is you don't want the audience to be working overtime to being like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Why does it not feel right?
You definitely respond to something on a level if it's not quite.
It's a magic trick. It's a total magic trick.
Yeah.
And I'm terrible at magic, but but
the cast, I think the cast appreciate it too, don't they? The cast always like
it gives them a lot to lean on, I suppose,
set,
as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've talked a lot about the tech side of things, which was obviously a huge component of this film. But there was kind of a departure, which I think took a lot of people by surprise. The temple set is something very, very different for Jurassic. No, it's not something we've ever seen before. The idea of, I don't know if Aboriginal is the right word, but the people that came before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even
indigenous. There you go.
I don't even recall how much of it's in the script. I there's the temple wasn't even a temple. It was
No.
It was literally the Quetzalcoatl nest, and it was just on the side of a cliff. But I had these ideas, and I think they just came out of conversations with Gareth of like, was there a people there before, and is there some kind of element left behind, stone carvings, and then I started to spin out even further of like, was there some knowledge of dinosaurs from this culture, and did that play into their, Inca or Mayan? You see a lot of like snakes or dragons or lizards that play into their architecture, their culture. So I kind of did a twist on that, like the temples are just a big mouth. None of that was in the script, and it was born of like a quick little sketch, as though it was like they were entering, the mouth of the whale or the mouth of a dinosaur. And then it just became this like, oh my god, this is like a total ode to Raiders of the Lost Ark and Indiana Jones, and let's just lean into that completely.
Yeah. It plays really well.
Yeah, no, that was really fun, and it was great to get away from. I think in the film industry, we all have a little bit of a attention span disorder. Like we cannot hold our attention too long. So if I focus on a lab for too long, I start to get a little bit itchy, and I want to like do something else. And then the temple was just stone and kind of earth and that kind of texture. It was really fun to play with that one. We had some great sculptors.
It was a really nice build, yeah.
Doing all the work on that, and there's faces in the sides of the walls, but one face is a skull, kind of playing into like Day of the Dead, and so there was a lot of just kind of having a lot of play. And the Green's team built all these root systems that come down from the ceiling,
Passage of time and everything, and that's really cool. And how's the process? I mean, it's not organic, but obviously I guess you maybe design it slightly more organically than you would something else.
Yeah, and it's a lot of kind of pitching of like, what if we did this? I mean, the temple was huge at early stages. We built little models of it, and it was massive, but I was trying to fit a very large dinosaur in it. But Gareth also wanted the feel of being trapped in a very small space, so it got condensed down. But yeah, it was a really fun thing to work out, and really it's an ode to just it's an Easter egg for Steven Spielberg. And the coolest thing was when we opened the set and Frank Marshall came on, he was like, "Ooh, this feels very Indiana Jones."
Oh, and he would
like,
know.
"Oh,
Yeah.
I'll take that, yeah.
I'll take that praise anytime. And so we built that on a soundstage, but we replicated it also on the back lot on a 70-foot tall cliff.
It was I said to you before we started, it was the only set I personally saw, because it was so mammoth that you could see it driving down the motorway past the Sky Studios backlot, which is just crazy.
The weird thing is you didn't get a lot of things online about it, but yet you just had thousands of people every week
just driving.
Not the temple, but the backlot got quite the composite gas station set.
One guy flew a drone over it once.
One guy flew a
We got
helicopter.
good-
I remember
yeah.
Well,
I remember that.
about a week before we shot, I was out back, and this helicopter just kept doing loops over us. Although this is definitely a guy taking pictures. They were quite low as well.
Yeah.
I don't think really had clearance to be doing that. So that was...
It's amazing how much didn't leak out from the film, given that it was very kind of off the cuff kind of production. We live in a world now where spoilers are a huge thing, and secrecy.
Yeah. I mean, Gareth he tries to shoot things with smaller crews. Thing like Jurassic Park, obviously, there's
very intimate. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's also just a system behind it that has to make it happen. So we were in Thailand, and there were like, I don't know, 200 crew trucks that would travel from location to location with us. It was hard not to notice us. It was pretty amazing that more didn't show up online, but we moved, I think, fast enough. I think we were 5 weeks in Thailand shooting. We just moved from location to location so quickly that maybe people just
Couldn't catch up.
couldn't catch up with us.
Yeah, I was ironically right here one day, and I got a notification that you were filming at I think it's the Royal Naval College, which is like a 20-minute walk that way.
Yeah, I mean, we scouted a few locations. We really wanted to do it in the Natural History Museum, and we got a peek. We got to go in there before opening hours, which was really cool. We got to walk around, nobody in there, but there was some logistics that didn't allow it to happen. And then we looked at even like, is it St. Paul's Cathedral?
Yes, just this way. Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
I liked the painted hall at Greenwich Naval Academy because it was kind of the right size, and it had beautiful paintings. It's been shot to death. There's been a ton of movies shot there, but we put
I
dinosaur
guess how you
bones
dress
in
it exactly, and I think you did some visual effects replacement on the mural as well, or on some of the
I
paintings.
think there was. I mean, that was the idea, is that we we did some illustrations where we had dinosaurs feeding into the paintings. I haven't seen it myself, but I believe there's stuff in there. But that was really fun to dress with, like skeletons, and a Titanosaurus we built up to about 12 feet, 14 feet.
Was the some of the pictures that came out? You had these big crates being shipped out that referred to it as like the like Neo-Jurassic, the modern era of dinosaurs, the InGen clone specimens. Were they supposed to be dinosaurs that had sort of died out in modern times on display, or?
That's a good question. I don't think so. I mean, we created the actual bones themselves based off of the actual, ancient bones of dinosaurs. So I would guess that new bones would look like, chicken bones or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not as black and.
The displays were all relating to InGen dinosaurs, but we were just trying to say, like, this is how they've been created. Maybe, and here are some of the older. It wasn't really we didn't have a chance to really work through it.
No, but that's why we get to have you guys interpret our designs and come up with a whole new storyline.
I haven't had the pleasure to listen to it yet, but I think in one of the commentary tracks, Gareth says, a lot of stuff is very much up to the viewer, how they interpret it, their experience. I think he was referring to the mosasaur as well. He was saying it's up to you whether you interpret this as the Jurassic World or, another mosa. It's not, it doesn't matter to the story, but if it matters to you, you can see that how you.
Yeah, otherwise the audience isn't participating. Then if you're not participating and coming up with your own thoughts and ideas, then it's boring. So a lot of it you want to intentionally just kind of leave open-ended.
I worked from the novel Hammond's Micro Elephant. He was on the little displays in there.
Those displays are really cool.
Louise did a lot of those.
Yeah.
I think I was driving.
You don't really see much of it.
I think like Little Mr. DNA maybe in the Nublar lab.
I think I'd driven my team really insane with like the Easter egg references. Like, we should try to include this, and they were just like.
It's a really good case
she did
for
a great
having
job of
fans in certain positions. I mean, I always say fans are probably going to be the worst storytellers in the world. Don't let them write a script, for Christ's sake, because it's going to become a lot of service. But then in roles like what you had, you're able to pack in these little micro details. I think one of my absolute favourites is the Site B photo in the lab.
Did I show you that? We got JT out.
Yeah. Put her in a little lab coat.
I was doing.
It was great. Do you see it on camera?
You see the shape of the photo from a distance.
Oh.
I had hoped you might see it on the floor in the debris, but I didn't mention to Gareth. I didn't want to think I was mad. So, but it was just a nice little detail.
The way it ties back to, it is The Lost World, isn't it? The novel. I think it's literally word for word. They find a picture or something of a man in a lab coat.
Yeah, so in the novel, what someone buys in on a computer on it is a picture of a guy in a Site B t-shirt next to a sign. Right. I just thought that'd be just fun.
It's great because it paints. It's one picture pinned to a workstation that pins this whole backstory of this enterprise that's been running for 30 years. It does so much heavy lifting with such minimal effort, really.
It was very good of JT to be willing to kind of stand outside with a clipboard in the middle of nowhere. And I had to sort of
she loved it.
Yeah, she's got copies of the picture. She was really pleased, and I was hoping she didn't wear her glasses. I wanted her to wear her glasses for the picture, but she wanted to look nice for it, so she took them off. But yeah, it was just like I spent ages kind of like in my spare time doing the background of the trees and building the sign in 3D and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was just for me. I just loved being in that world, and so anything I could put into it that kind of made it feel a bit more real. Like with the fence signs, we obviously kept the fence signs to have all the wording as the originals, but we just brought it into the new look. And that scene that got cut, which is a shame, with the Jeep slamming through there.
Yeah, that was such a good idea I had too.
I think it was it because Stephen said take out the references from the first film. Apparently,
I don't know why it was removed, but we needed a Jeep to drive through a barrier. Gareth just wanted to see it just exiting the facility. And we just didn't have a place for it, and there was like a little bridge leading from the sound stages to the back lot. And I was like, what if we just use that bridge?
It was a really nice little build.
And the greens came in and put some greens around it. They shot it at night. You would just never know that like if you turned around 180 degrees, there'd just be huge sound stages.
It was in trailer 1, wasn't it? Just like a 5-second
it was
clip.
in a trailer,
And you're right, it looks so good when it hits it, and for some reason sparks fly off it, but it looked really cool with the fence lights on as well.
That night there was a massive lightning storm, and I was on the fence. Should I just go back to work and sort of see this set in the rain and lightning? It's like, oh no, it'll be in the movie, and obviously it wasn't in the movie, but yeah, that did look amazing.
There's to your earlier question. I would have loved to have seen that in the movie. That was a fun little thing.
Extended cut. Put that one shot back in.
Get on the phone to Gareth.
There's a lot of material. I think comparing, and it's mostly from the trailers. A lot of shots that didn't make it. So I'd be curious if you put absolutely everything back in, what length this film would have been, especially with the deleted Mutadon scene, sort of running up the Scarlet on the phone. And Krebs trying to start the car without the key.
Maz was heartbroken about that because she had to find Maz, the set decorator. She did the gas station, and she had to find at short notice one of those American phone books that mounts to a phone booth.
Right.
So you with the metal pole and the spine.
Yeah.
And I think there's like one for hire in the UK, and she sort of managed to find it at lightning speed, get it shipped over. So yeah, when that scene didn't make it, there was a bit of sadness there.
Yeah, but that's the business. That's the business.
Yeah. So much great stuff has made it. You know, it's you only ever see the stuff that as a designer, I imagine you only see the things that don't, and sometimes it's hard to appreciate everything that you did do. So on that, actually, what is, if there is anything in the film that sort of you really feel like it had your stamp on it? You're like, that's me right there. That's there because I said this or did this or.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a split between the Jeep or the lab. I mean, the lab is, I mean, I love like Ken Adam, who was a production designer, British production designer, who did all the big Bond films and just created this kind of iconic big third act kind of set piece. And so a little bit of that lab was an ode to him and wanting to do something big, but at the same time have a ton of little detail and you know, going from macro to micro constantly in one set was really fun. And then just be able to walk on that set and be able to kind of almost, it was pretty much 360.
It was self-contained, yeah.
It was self-contained.
There's something to be said about large sets, composite sets, where I always go back to the original Visitor Center, that they built the interior at such scale on stage 12 that you could walk up the front steps through the rotunda into the restaurant, and then there was a tiny little bit of the kitchen by the door just in case. So you could almost go through 4 different spaces, which is just crazy. It really heightens that sense of realism.
It's not so good when you have to work on it at speed though, and you have to get out the set and you realise you have to do. I mean, remember that night we were doing all the signs in the lab. It was a case of, if you wanted to sign up there, you had to do this
zigzag,
and then it's not straight. You go back and do it. But yeah, but those self-contained sets, they are lovely to be on. Like because and that night before they shoot it, before the camera crew come in, but it's all pre-lit, you really get to appreciate that space and kind of.
Yeah, I mean the icing on the cake is the lighting, because the weird thing is you're building these sets and working on these sets for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it's not properly lit.
I imagine probably overlit work lights.
Yeah, it's terribly lit, and you have to kind of envision like how this is going to look. You do illustrations, and in some way those become a bit of a map, but they usually often don't pre-light until like the week before or even a couple days before. So to actually see it lit up and those big tanks, the big dinosaur tanks lit up. By the way, we never even talked about the scrolling graphics on those tanks.
Yeah, wrong typeface. Wasn't Helvetica.
Yeah,
Helvetica is your middle name, right?
You know what? I've never had a chance to do that before on a movie, and weirdly, I think
I love Helvetica.
When I did the interview with you, I sent you my folio, and I think I'd done all these spaceships and all these sci-fi shows, and the thing that stood out to you were these kind of retro 1960 travel posters I'd done for a Virgin advert.
All right.
And you just liked the way that I crunched Helvetica together, and that's what got me the job. Which is, you talk about the chaos of the industry. It was, you can plan. You know, you'd have thought like sci-fi Jurassic Park, I would have got in for the control panels and that, but it's that one piece in your folio that is different to something else, and that's what
you never know.
You never know. Yeah, it was nice to kind of run amok with it, because obviously Gareth likes that look, and it's very, you know, I think, how old is Gareth?
He just turned 50.
Wow, I guess we're kind of like similar age-ish then. That we were exposed to the same things culturally.
Yes, yeah.
He would experience it as an adult, and I would experience it as like a bit of a kid, I guess. But so that digital modern Helvetica retro 60s 90s splodge thing, I kind of wipe out vibe what he liked, and I could just see how that worked. And I was lucky that the word InGen just works so nicely. It's there
On the
that's
lamp
it, yeah.
poster, yeah.
Like
yeah.
so, the first thing I did on the job was start doing the logos. I think we worked through 150 versions in the end, which normally would drive me insane, but I just enjoy doing it. And it's it was a nice word to typeset. It was a nice thing to work with. When we had that first Zoom call, we said maybe the creator's going to have some influence on it. So we started leaning into that kind of like, maybe it's a bit Japanese and there's a bit more tech in the logo, or much more stylized. Just playing with all of those shapes and colors and using the lettering in that way and using typography as art. It was just really pleasurable. It was a really nice, some words aren't nice to work with. InGen was just a lovely word to work with. And John Bell's logo, the original one with the I and the N, those structural forms, we moved away from it at the start, but it just
kept coming. It's a funny thing
when
that
the Jeep came in those colors, we then started,
yeah.
What if we just lean a bit more into the 90s thing? And
it's funny how, corporate branding within sci-fi films, it ends up being quite an important thing. We have all these sci-fi epics that are tied to fictional corporations. Weyland-Yutani, yeah. I mean, and something like that, people daren't change it. But then Jurassic's had a few different iterations on InGen, but this felt like it's completely new, and yet all the principal elements are all still there. It still divides it up in the same way, the I and the N and then the Gen. Doing it in lowercase it's not a completely new departure. I think JP3 did it, but it fits the space really, really well. I'm looking at it right now and it's gorgeous. Adding biogenetics in, and I love the two-tone color works so well.
Which, ironically, the blue and the white isn't in the film.
One out of focus shot.
Okay.
Just one out of focus shot. But
we did that giant one on the back wall.
Yeah.
We did it in blue and white, and I think when it was out of focus, you didn't see it. So they comped it in black in post.
Oh, really?
And then at no point, I think maybe if you freeze framed one of the workers' ID badge, but they're white on the badges. So yeah, at no point in that movie is the blue and the white.
It's solid blue on the. Oh no, is it white on blue or blue on white?
I think
one or the other.
Environmental suits might have had it.
The
maybe
big helmet as well. Really,
Yeah.
really cool, by the way. The full hazmat kind of suit, and I
I designed the helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea of that logo being two-tone was that we could kind of change colour for the different divisions.
Yeah.
So I think throughout the movies, there'd been this kind of implication that InGen was quite large in scale, not just financial operations made sense, biogenetics made sense. I think it was a logistics logo as well, which we're going to stick on the Jeep. But because we kind of did things backwards and the Jeep and the raft bag came first, the biogenetics logo ended up on that because we didn't know where else we were going to see it. But the idea was you'd have like different divisions and you could change the colour of it to match what it was on. So you'd have to put blue on the red Jeep and that sort of thing. But the blue and the white was really supposed to be the primary one. So
yeah.
in my head somewhere there's still like a poster or a billboard somewhere where you see the nice. I mean, made like and a bit like the thing about Jurassic, the first one that speaks to me so much is with the design, there's two sides. There's the tourist side and there's the internal corporate side. And I really love that kind of stark difference between the two of them. So we made the kind of InGen operations logo much more solid and chunky and less flashy. And the biogenetics one is a bit sort of friendlier and lowercase and a bit more kind of slick. So that was my kind of way of capturing that feel of the first movie, and perhaps suggesting the scale of InGen, which works given the size of the facility on the island and how high tech we ended up making it.
Yeah, I mean, the logo design is really fun to have a play with, and I think it's really important in showing some kind of fictitious branding is kind of cool. It just kind of sits you deeper and deeper into the story.
Gareth is really involved in that. I mean, we came and sat on my computer with a Wacom and started just drawing over my stuff, which was nice because like a director actually having a feel they wanted to convey visually. That's really nice to work with.
Actual actionable feedback, whereas someone saying like, just make it more modern, I guess.
Yeah, make it more zhuzh or whatever. Yeah. But like with you and the Essex, because I work in Illustrator, which is very much like as a physical process, you have to kind of point and click and drag things and it's almost more technical than illustrative. And I would send you Essex camo and you had that giant square brush in Photoshop and you just like paint big diagonals over it, which is great because my software didn't do that. So then James would like take his stroke on it and suddenly he would change what I'd done and it would make more sense. And it was that really nice kind of mix of kind of different ways of working, stacking on top of kind of the things we were producing that kind of produced the nice. So the Essex camo, I think there was like 3 or 4 of us working on that in the end, wasn't there?
Yeah, and it was just a
done
matter
or-
of just finding the right look for it and sliding it around, literally in Photoshop, just taking a couple graphics and sliding it around, seeing what kind of fits and what doesn't fit. Because intentionally, it's not supposed to line up with the design of the boat. It's supposed to kind of be offset.
Breaks up the elements,
and
but then
kinda
I
fold
guess
over it.
from a film perspective, you almost
Had to do a little bit, yeah.
you kind of don't want that because you want it to be recognizable as a boat. So you've got to kind of undo the intent.
Yeah, it's definitely dancing a fine line between making something that reads and something that would just be completely abstract.
I think like it worked very well though. Like sometimes you do a movie and you go, oh, that didn't land. I think everything we did on that,
It's visually a very
Communicated.
gorgeous movie. Everything about it. The Essex looks great on the water. That practical boat is just.
It's
chef's
really
kiss.
cool. It's really cool.
it's quite rare for it to be a practical boat that's modern in a movie.
Yeah. I mean, it
Thinking like Thunder in Paradise, and that's where my brain stops.
yeah, Waterworld. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very expensive to put a practical object.
Your risk factor
on the
probably
boat.
goes through the roof as
Yeah.
well.
we had the Mariposa, which was a sailboat that we purchased
God, of
as
course,
well.
yeah. And again, you built two of those.
We built kind of like 2.5 of them. Yeah. So we had a real boat, and then we built a full 1-to-1 replica that we put on a gimbal that flipped it 180 degrees in our deep tank in Malta, and then we would build some bits and pieces of the interior and a small bit of piece when the boat is fully submerged. That had breakaway pieces.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that was, and I'm not a big boat person. We had to like, speaking about like what we were talking about earlier, like educating yourself and all this like stuff that you're not.
I finally
an expert
memorized
on.
port and starboard because of Jurassic. Like I
still
I
can't.
now know it's
Starboard,
port.
port.
Yeah,
What
There's a
throws
reason-
me off is older boats. The wheels used to be reversed, so you watch Titanic and they're like harder starboard, but you spin the wheel the
Oh,
opposite way
okay.
or something like that. It's but a fun tiny fact. Your Malta the tank I think was originally built or at least used for Raise the Titanic. Clive
Yes.
Cussler
Really?
film.
Yeah. They
it's-
still have the Titanic miniature.
I was going to ask. It's still
Sitting
sat
on-
on the back lot.
And even more so, this is weird. I own the original painting for the Raise of the Titanic VHS.
Bursting out of the water or the underwater.
Underwater
Yeah.
with the explosions. It's John Berkey painting.
that's amazing.
It's
Yeah.
a funny film that because that effect sequence is actually really cool, but the rest of the film is quite heavily politically kind of a
I
little.
don't even remember. I saw it as a kid and it kind of freaked me out. I didn't know what
There's
was
the
going
shot
on.
of it in being towed past in New York.
Yeah.
And it's weirdly like horror film esque, isn't it? That's why it works so well in Ghostbusters too, because it just looks
Yeah, exactly.
terrifying. Yeah.
Cool. So after the film, then obviously working on a big franchise movie, it doesn't just end there. There's merchandise and press and stuff like that. What, if any, sort of ways have you kind of seen your work? I don't know what the right way to put this is. Not come back to haunt you, but like,
No, that's pretty good. Yeah.
what ways has it come back around? I mean, you've probably experienced this before with Star Wars. The stuff you design gets made into merchandise and has a life after the film.
Yeah, I mean, they do some fun stuff with the premiere. I went to the New York premiere and they built a back end of the Essex completely out of
yes,
Lego.
yeah.
They rebuilt kind of the bar, the Van Dyke bar, and that was the bar you would go get your drinks at the
That's
after
cool.
party. They would build parts of like the temple. I mean, it's all for promotional, but it's fun to see all that stuff kind of tie in. And then ultimately, if they build a Lego set out of your designs, it's like
I've been meaning to
nothing
pick up
better.
the little Jeep because it's a very nice take on it. Sometimes when you scale something down to Lego, it doesn't always quite hold up. But
I think that probably means it's a good design to start with. Like
Yeah.
if it's chunky. Yeah, because my wife works for Lego, so she sent me all the pictures of the engine Jeep before it came out, and my logo is now a Lego brick, which is
Come on.
yeah. Like, I mean,
That's how you know
kind-
you've made it.
Sort of why we get into it in a way. It's just, I have a lot of friends who worked on kind of Star Trek, and they've kind of the stuff they've created has become just part of the real world, like in that way. And it's just bizarre to walk through a toy shop and see your logo on the thing. Or I went to see Rebirth on like a IMAX super screen, and they had an advert for the Jurassic Lego before that. So I saw my logo on a Jurassic Jeep on a cinema screen. And I was just like, this is a really bizarre layering, but it's just astonishing to kind of get to. Because all the shows I've worked on, like Doctor Who and Black Mirror and Red Dwarf, I've always managed to miss any of the stuff I've done being made as merch, which is really weird. But this time around, it's been Universal used the Helvetica thing for all the toys. Like
Yeah, I noticed that.
that look has been, and so my wife's initials
I think
ended up
all
on
the
promo
branding
stuff.
is very, it's very Essex based. The color scheme, I think it seemed like they were keen to kind of carry that across everything: the red, the black,
Yeah.
the grey.
Caution stripes. Gareth loves a really good caution
Yeah.
stripe. So
That was what was nice about it, because on some jobs you'd be like, oh, I don't know if we should do a caution stripe, but because Gareth loves them and then that world supports them, you get to, and it saved me like so many times. Like, what do I put here? Why is there a caution stripe in the raft bag? But it's fine to just fit in that little space, because you've done all the,
Because it just looks cool.
because you're putting in the nice radius corners and diagonals, and they work really well with hazard stripes. So it was just this really happy, your taste, Gareth's taste, my taste. I think each thing just seemed to stack really well together.
it did. Yeah, it really did.
But yeah, I've collected every model of the Jeep that's out there. I've collected now. Yeah, the little Matchbox one is great as well.
Oh yeah.
I've got a version. You saw that one.
Yeah, I did all the decals on it. I did all
Yeah,
those
you did.
painstaking. My last day was mostly just like doing ID badges for you and the Jeep decals for you, and you had like flight cases of things just going.
Brings me on my
Pays to
next
be the
question.
boss.
What did you take home? And I know this is a dangerous question. Like maybe there's some things you'd rather keep secret. But
I've got 500 InGen lanyards because we didn't actually use those in the end. Yeah, those.
I got a little bit of something here and there. Some sketches and stuff like that. And, some stuff from you.
I made a lot of the crew Jurassic 1 badges because weirdly I was working on those in my own time because that's what I'm like before I got the job, and then I used that. So yeah, I think Gareth got his own little.
Oh, that was before the job.
Yeah, I know, it's tragic, isn't it? But yeah, I kept a lot of print tests and that sort of thing because it's partly for folio use and see how things work. I really, really wanted to keep one of the fence signs, but I think they just went off and didn't come back. I mean, you're not really supposed to keep anything, really, right?
It's got to all go back to the studio.
But I mean, there's some stuff that's like things that were destined for the bin or whatever that you might just kind of sneak under your arm, or whatever. Or
Yeah, they do throw out a lot of stuff.
Yeah. With the large sets, there's not a great deal of choice. You can't store it, can you? And then the set deck, I mean, you keep as much as you can, I suppose, in case you need it for a sequel, but storage
I've kept stuff off shows like Red Dwarf, which is then wrapped and then come back 5 years later, and if I hadn't kept stuff, they wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
So that's partly a justification for it. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much banned on bringing stuff home now because my loft is full of
film memorabilia.
10, 15 years of my career. Yeah, so
we haven't seen it yet, but Universal are usually pretty good at putting props and stuff out on display in the theme parks and such. So maybe hopefully we see one of the Jeeps, because I'm sure they're still around somewhere.
I asked somebody from the studio when we were wrapping, like, where's the boat going? Where are these Jeeps going? And I think one idea was they were gonna literally sail the Essex back to Florida or something. So
we're getting Universal Studios in Luton
right
here, so maybe they're going to just be great.
Rumor has it it's going to have a Jurassic World section, and they've done Jurassic Park lands, they've done a couple of Jurassic World lands, but they've never done something that's not a theme park, like an abandoned industrial environment like Rebirth had. So maybe it's an opportunity to do something new, something different.
Yeah,
pipes are cheap. Pipes are
cheap. Yeah.
Pipes and stripes. That was.
It's very similar to what Disney did with Avatar. Their I forget what they call World of Pandora, I guess. It's supposed to be an industrial facility that's now open to space tourists for some reason, but it's immaculately well done. Really, really, really great.
I think that's what's so fun about doing these sort of jobs is that people then build a world out of the bits you've made.
Yeah.
And sometimes their work is better than yours, and it's kind of interesting seeing where it kind of goes on to.
Yeah, there's these like master Lego builders that will build a design that they'll take, they'll be the design that goes out to the public, but then they'll do and that might be like 1,000 pieces or something, but they'll do like a 5,000 piece. And then
something you could never retail.
Yeah,
but
and they'll recreate the instructions, and you can buy the instructions and get all those
the British
pieces.
ones, yep, okay.
They're incredibly elaborate. I've always wanted to do one, but I would have to buy a bunch of Lego pieces and then build it.
And you can get the software to do it yourself. You can 3D it, and then you can order the Lego from the thing.
Really?
I've been almost in that space a few times, but again, I've got
it's just another rabbit hole to
hobby
go down.
limitation to go through. Yeah.
Cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining. Just honestly, last question, I promise. Where are we going to see your work next? If you can talk about it.
I'm NDA'd. You're in the age.
I mean, on IMDb, you can look up what I'm on. I'm on a Star Wars production.
Oh, okay.
but
Another
really-
one.
Can't really say that much more about it. But yeah,
That's fair. No. And your first as production designer?
for Star Wars, yeah.
That's really, really cool. So that's out next year after.
No, it'll be May of 27.
27. Okay, a little way
Right around
away
the 50th anniversary.
Oh, wow, that's
of,
really cool.
New
Of
Hope.
course, 1977.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same for me. I'm on an untitled superhero-based project, but I think
Only a
it'll be
few
out.
of those filming at the
Yeah,
minute
exactly.
here in the
Keeps it
UK.
vague. So yeah,
Cool. Well, thank you very much, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. You've shared so much on
Thank
so
you.
many gems on a film that I think people really did love this summer. It was probably this summer's smash hit.
and it did well.
Yeah, 850 or
think it's-
8.
yeah,
something
something like
crazy
that,
like that. Yeah. Which I think shows that you just don't bet against dinosaurs.
People love dinosaurs. I mean, I grew up as a kid just loving dinosaurs. I don't know what the attraction is. It's just it's a little bit fairy tale. It's a little bit of real science.
Yeah, it spans that they existed but don't exist now. It's such a weird space
I
to
think
be
it's
in,
just they're beyond comprehension.
Yes, yeah.
When in that first movie, when the Rex breaks out and Grant's staring at it from the car, he has that look on his face, which is both kind of, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and I'm boned because it's going to eat me. And it's like, that's a really
How do you process
primal
that?
human, like, just, it's awesome in the kind of biblical sense of the word. Like, you have no way of processing that. Like, to see a real dinosaur would be
Someday.
one day, feathered or not.
Yeah. James Clyne, Matthew Clark, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.